Chapter 169. The economy of the Tang dynasty was basically in the hands of the government, which caused many people to have no land to farm, thus creating such a vicious cycle. Li Shimin also wanted to change, but such a reform was easier said than done. The Tang dynasty was poor. What reward could he give to the meritorious officials? Other than land, what else could he give? Nothing. He suddenly realized that he, Li Shimin, was a pauper, penniless. Last time, when Zhang Feng mentioned the cooperative, Li Shimin could not help but see a glimmer of hope. However, he considered many factors, including the Tubo Tuyuhan incident and the Zhenla incident, so he had to suppress it. But now, it had reached the point where he had no choice but to reveal it. He had no money. Li Shimin was poor. Now, after paying the money to Zhenla, he had no money at all. How terrible was this for an empire? Sigh. Lao Li, don't be so pessimistic. I know what you're thinking, but if the emperor doesn't say anything, no matter how good you and I are, we can't shake this dragon. Cooperative? Now you know why I asked you to cooperate with Lord Zhang's son, right? Without the support of the government, do you think a businessman like you dares to do such a thing? Your head will be chopped off in minutes. Li Shimin was silent. The status of a businessman was very low. When they met the government, they had to greet them, or they would be beaten. Not to mention, such a big move. If it were a normal businessman, who would dare to do such a thing? They would have been king in prison to enjoy their lives. This was the status of a businessman. At this time, he also understood why Zhang Feng kept urging him to cooperate with the government. He would rather ask for less money and profits. Even if he withdrew his investment at the right time, he would still contact the government. If you don't have any connections with the government, what do you want to do? You're just daydreaming. Thinking of this, Li Shimin asked, Brother Zhang Feng, what do you think the emperor will do? What will he do? Zhang Feng stroked his chin. Originally, we didn't dare to talk about this matter. This is something that could cost us our lives. You'd better tell your men to keep their mouths shut. I don't want to lose my head. Li Shimin raised his eyebrows. He nodded. He knew that Zhang Feng was talking about Wei Shuyu. This brat, I'll transfer him away from my side some other day, this troublemaker. Don't worry. Those who can come out with me are all my children and nephews. You can rest assured. Hearing this, Zhang Feng lowered his voice and said to Li Shimin, Actually, this is nothing. I believe that if King Zhenla is not a fool, he will definitely make the Tang dynasty suffer this time. But I heard that the emperor has already resolved this matter. It doesn't seem to be as difficult as you said, right? Not that difficult. Zhang Feng smiled. Let me tell you. I reckon that the emperor's treasury has long run out of money. Think about it. How many years has it been since the Tang dynasty was founded? How can there be any money left after years of war? This time, I reckon that the current emperor is also holding on, right? After today, I believe that King Zhenla will make a big move, and Tubo will also make a big move. Li Shimin was shocked. How can Tubo make trouble? Did you see something? Zhang Feng smiled and did not answer him. Instead, he continued. Zhenla is such a fat piece of meat. Who wouldn't covet it? Besides, Zhenla and Tubo are only separated by a wall. How can he not know about Zhenla's big move? And Zhenla might also know, so this time, he directly emptied the Tang dynasty to raise some funds for Zhenla. Moreover, Zhenla has another plan. As Zhang Feng spoke, his eyes could not help but narrow. Li Shimin was really anxious. If he had known, he would have met Tubo's envoy early this morning. But it was too late now. Brother Zhang, you are Lao Li's brother. Just tell me, how should we deal with this matter? Why are you so anxious? Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin doubtfully and said, The emperor is not in a hurry. You are just a commoner. Why are you in a hurry? How could he not be anxious? How could Li Shimin not be anxious? He was standing next to Zhang Feng. Now he wished he could pull this bastard's ear and tell him that he was Li Shimin. Just tell me. If something goes wrong, I'll use all my belongings on Zhenla. If something goes wrong, I'll die. Okay. Since you're in such a hurry, I'll tell you about it. But you have to promise me that you won't tell anyone about this. This is really a state secret. For this matter, we have to start from the drought in Tubo. The drought in Tubo is far more serious than you think. In addition to the incident with the water wheel, I believe that Tubo is in chaos now. The only reason it hasn't exploded yet is because he's deliberately suppressing it. Are you saying that Tubo and Tuyuhun are biding their time to see what the Tang dynasty will do next? Li Shimin narrowed his eyes slightly and suppressed the wisdom in his eyes. Tubo came to the Tang dynasty this time because he really wanted to ask for help from the Tang dynasty. Think about it. What do you think a hungry dog will do when it sees its owner throwing a fat piece of meat to another dog? He will rob Xinla? Chapter 170. At this moment, Li Shimin was a little scared. It was not because of other reasons. It was because the surrounding countries were too quiet. Even the Tujue, who had always been the most active, were observing during this period. They could see a little bit of something from the urgent documents. However, in this regard, the imperial court could only station at the border. There was no other way. This kind of strange atmosphere made Li Shimin feel a trace of uneasiness. He even felt that something big would happen at the retired emperor's birthday this time. However, he did not know what it was for the time being. He just faintly felt that it might have something to do with Tubo. After Tubo got the blueprint, as Zhang Feng expected, Tubo did a lot of publicity and then nothing happened. Even the secret agents of the Tang dynasty did not know what happened in the end. This strange situation had not been solved until now. This was what Li Shimin was worried about. Today, if Zhang Feng did not mention it, he would have been kept in the dark. Li Shimin could not help but ask hurriedly, "Do you think Tubo will rob Xinla's goods, or will he? Do you think Tubo is stupid?" Yesterday, I heard the group of children at the door say that they overheard the conversation of the palace maids in Hejian of the Pure Fragrance Workshop. They said that the envoys of Tubo and Tuyuhun went to the emperor yesterday. But for some reason, the emperor did not receive them. I guess the emperor should know about this and is thinking of a way now? If he doesn't think of a way, What are you laughing about? Li Shimin was so anxious that he was about to go crazy. Seeing Zhang Feng chuckling in the middle of his sentence, he felt unwell. Zhang Feng stared at the wine bowl and said to himself, "Tubo has a purpose for enduring until now. Even a fool can see it, let alone the emperor. I think the emperor should also be thinking of a way, right? Lao Li, I advise you to quickly think of a way to sell the things in your hands. If the emperor really did not think of this, then what will happen? Why don't you tell me everything in one breath?" Li Shimin was so anxious that he wanted to climb the wall. Suddenly, Li Shimin's eyes flashed with surprise. "Do you mean that Tubo will rob the Tang dynasty's goods after they leave Chang? Isn't it obvious? If His Majesty doesn't deal with this matter immediately, then this matter will definitely happen. Furthermore, I'm guessing that Tubo's appetite is definitely not that small. Think about it, if you wanted to snatch it, what would you do? Where are we going to strike?" Li Shimin frowned as he paced back and forth in the tavern. Zhang Feng didn't rush him and instead drank his wine leisurely. He wanted to see if old Li's brain was really enlightened. It was such a simple question. As a businessman, if he couldn't think of it, then he really had a problem. Such a big business would be finished sooner or later. After an unknown amount of time, Li Shimin racked his brains for a long time. Suddenly he thought of a place. "Lingnan. You're talking about Lingnan, right? Smart. You finally learned something from me. Not bad, not bad. You have 10% of my ability. However, their appetite isn't that small. Think again." Li Shimin narrowed his eyes and stared into the distance. He murmured, "Could it be that you mean they want to connect with Lingnan and rob the goods that Xinla is transporting to Chang, and the goods that Xinla is transporting to Chang'an? You're finally enlightened." Zhang Feng got up and walked unsteadily to Li Shimin's side and patted him on the shoulder. "This is a plan to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. If His Majesty can't think of this, I think it's best for you to immediately throw out the goods in your hands. Otherwise, an enraged King Xinla might not dare to do anything to His Majesty, but I think that he definitely won't let you off." Li Shimin's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. However, he couldn't figure out one thing. As far as I know, Lingnan has always been submissive to the Tang dynasty. I even heard that General Feng Ying is stationed there. Are you suspecting that His Majesty is not using people well? No. On the contrary, it's precisely because His Majesty has controlled Lingnan so well that there are no loopholes. Therefore, when we leave Lingnan, the brigade will lower their vigilance. Thus, there will be problems there. Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin with a half-smile and said, Lao Li, if I were Tubo's man, where do you think I would make a move? You mean Jianan Road? Smart. Indeed. There's an Eagle Beak Cliff in Jianan Road. It's connected to the Tang dynasty in the east and Tubo in the west. After Eagle Beak Cliff, there's the endless Jinla jungle. Moreover, Tubo often plunder Jinla, so they must know the terrain of Jianan Road like the back of their hand. However, there's a flaw in your plan. Li Shimin put his hands behind his back and looked very serious. Jianan Road was heavily garrisoned. How could there be a problem there? However, Zhang Feng mentioned that Tubo was good at hiding and the terrain of Jianan Road was very complicated. Therefore, Zhang Feng's words didn't make sense. However, Zhang Feng's meaning was obviously not here. Could it be? A hint of excitement flashed through Li Shiming's mind, and he hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang Feng, you mean to have His Majesty set up an ambush in Jianan Road, seize the opportunity to intercept the goods from both sides, and eat them all? Chapter 171. Snatch my ass. Lao Li, I've been talking for a long time. Do you think I'm asking you to rob? Tubo can't wait for you to rob. If you rob, no matter who it is, as long as it's someone from the Tang dynasty, it will definitely arouse Jinla's anger. Although Jinla is not afraid, there's a fierce tiger beside Jinla. If this fierce tiger wants to protect its cub, and India intervenes in this matter, once they join forces with Tubo, then you have a pig's brain. Zhang Feng pointed at the pale-faced Li Shimin and roared. He was exasperated at Li Shimin's failure to live up to his expectations. After wasting so much saliva on cooperation, this guy only thought of snatching? Snatch your ass? You little thing, aren't you afraid of being scalded to death? Tubo has been planning for this for a long time. He's just waiting for you to fall into his trap. Why are you still digging into it now? Are you stupid? Zhang Feng was furious. He waved his hand and did not expect Li Shimin to understand. He touched his chin and thought for a while. How about this, you listen to me. Get out of here immediately. Go back and immediately sell all the materials related to Jinla. I believe that those rich businessmen in Chang'an are all envious. This is a good opportunity. Also, tell Zhang Sun about the cooperative right away. Regardless of whether he cares about it or not, all of your trading companies must act immediately. At the very least, you must establish the model of the cooperative before this incident happens. Gather all the finances. After this incident, you, Lao Li, may become the richest man in Chang'an, and in an instant. Li Shimin was already dumbfounded. He stared at Zhang Feng with his eyes wide open. Zhang Feng was now looking at Li Shimin angrily. He kicked Li Shimin's butt and said, Why aren't you getting out of here? Are you waiting to be beheaded or lose your family fortune? Don't King drag me down. Only then did Li Shimin react. When he walked to the door, Li Shimin stopped and said, Brother Zhang, I plan to send my good-for-nothing sons to you. It doesn't matter. You can just use them as an assistant, okay? Zhang Feng exploded. So, you really think I'm a charity hall? If all your sons were like you, wouldn't I have a headache? I still want to eat and wait for death in peace. Seeing that Zhang Feng did not agree, Li Shimin cupped his fists and left in a hurry. Zhang Feng felt that something was wrong, but he scratched his head and couldn't figure it out. In the end, he lay on the recliner and fell asleep. Li Shimin's face was very gloomy. It was so gloomy that it seemed like water was about to drip out. Wei Shuyu was so shocked that she didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She just silently lowered her head and followed Li Shimin. But when they walked out of the alley, Li Shimin suddenly stopped and said, Pass down my order. Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, Zhang Sun Wuji, Qing Yaojin, and Li Jing, as long as they are not dead, go to the imperial study immediately to wait for the order. Wei Shuyu was shocked. She hurriedly cupped her fists and said, Yes, Your Majesty. This matter was too big. Li Shimin had a faint feeling that something was wrong with the Turks before. but he couldn't tell what was wrong. On the other hand, the matter of Tubo this time made him neglect it. All his goals were on the Turks. But if it wasn't for Zhang Feng's reminder, he wouldn't have known until now. This matter seemed to be very good, but once there was a trace of negligence, it would be disastrous. Finally, he knew why Zhang Feng wanted him to set up the cooperative. Although it was a business matter, Li Shimin felt that this cooperative must be set up. On the one hand, the Tang dynasty was indeed out of money. If the Turks found out the truth, they would definitely invade at this time. This was what Li Shimin had been paying attention to all along. There was another aspect. It was to strictly prevent Tubo from robbing them halfway. Whether it was Jinla, Tubo, or the Turks, these three forces seemed to have no connection at all. But with Zhang Feng's suggestion, were these three forces really not connected? In fact, Zhang Feng had seen through it and also mentioned it. But he was worried that there were spies around Li Shimin, or people who didn't keep their mouths shut. If this was leaked out, it would be a disaster that would destroy the entire clan. Behind all this, the Turks were behind it. But he didn't understand the real intention of the Tang dynasty, nor did he know the actual situation of the Tang dynasty. So, he joined forces with Tubo to pressure King Jinla, forcing him to use the entire country's strength to exchange all the resources sent by Ningyun. This was a difficult problem to begin with. Not to mention that King Jinla came so quickly. As for the Crown Prince of Jinla, it was just a coincidence that he met Zhang Feng and triggered this matter. If it wasn't for Zhang Feng tricking the silly Prince Jinla, then Li Shimin felt a chill down his spine when he thought about this matter. Jinla, you're really tired of living. Do you really think that I, Li Shimin, am a fool? Li Shimin was furious. He felt that he had been fooled. He should have noticed the Turks long ago. When had the Turks ever been obedient? Never. If there was even the slightest problem with the Tang dynasty, they wouldn't let go of the chance to take advantage of it. Not to mention that the Turks were also in trouble now. Li Shimin looked at the swaying sedan chair and slammed his fist on the soft couch. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Turks, it's time to settle our scores." Chapter 172. Li Shimin was very angry. So much so that his face was gloomy all the way. He even turned a deaf ear to Crown Prince Li Qingqian's report about Tubo. As soon as he entered the palace, he rushed into the imperial study angrily without changing his clothes. However, the moment he entered the imperial study, the coldness on his face suddenly disappeared. He became calm like an ancient well. This caused the eyes of the 6 people waiting here to flicker with a trace of hesitation. Then they hurriedly bowed and said, "We welcome your majesty." Li Shimin waved his big sleeve and said, "Li Jing, Qing Yaozhi, have you received any information about the Turks recently?" Li Jing and Qing Yaojin hurriedly stepped forward. "Your Majesty, for the time being, the Turks have not detected any abnormalities in Yuzhou. Even the secret agents and our spies disguised as merchants have not detected any abnormalities. On the contrary, I heard that a large number of cattle and sheep have died innocently. Tuli has sent the tribes to drive the cattle and sheep to other places. Your Majesty, the garrison in Longyu Road has reported that Xieli has not done anything recently. Even the garrison patrolling the border has been reduced." Hearing this, Li Shimin was surprised and asked, "Have you noticed how many garrison troops have been reduced?" Previously, there were 130,000 troops stationed at the border. 5 days ago, I heard that the garrison troops have been reduced by 30,000. It is said that they have gone back to deal with the famine in the tribes. Xieli, famine. Withdraw 30,000 troops? Tuli's military is abnormal? There is something wrong. Li Jing, I ask you, has there been any abnormalities in Yuzhou recently? Recently, everything in Yuzhou has been normal. However, General Chung just said that the garrison in Longyu Road has been reduced. I just noticed that there seems to be some Turk garrison troops in Yuzhou. Your Majesty, did something happen? Could it be that Tuli and Xieli want to go south? Everyone also heard that something was wrong. In addition to the warning from Wei Shuyu, who had just informed them, the emperor was unusually furious after coming out of the small tavern. Could it be? Li Shimin ignored them. He stood on the map on the side of the study and carefully observed. Something was wrong. Could it be that little brother Zhang Feng was thinking too much? There was nothing unusual about the Turks. Could it be Tubo? Thinking of this, Li Shimin asked again, Zhang's son Wuji. Present. Did any of Tubo's spies find anything? Is there any unusual activity in their army? Zhang's son Wuji thought for a while but didn't say anything. Wei Zheng hurriedly replied, replying to your majesty, this subject received a report from Jianan Circuit 2 hours ago. Jianan Dao? Li Shimin's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly asked, say what? For days ago, there were signs that the Tubo army was secretly gathering. A farmer who was walking around said that a small group of Tubo people had entered Junla and then disappeared. Tubo! What a Tubo! Li Shimin's fist slammed hard on the map. His fist even broke through the surface. Everyone hurriedly knelt down. Your Majesty, what happened? Li Shimin paused for half a day before he came back to his senses. He said, today I went to the small tavern. Brother Zhang Feng, with just a few street children, in a few days' time, he was able to gather some gossip from the eunuchs and palace maids of the pure fragrant square and summarize a major event. I really don't know. Are my court raising pigs? Seeing that Li Shimin was angry, everyone hurriedly prostrated themselves on the ground. This subject is terrified. The temperature in the imperial studies suddenly dropped. It was supposed to be summer, but everyone felt that it was as cold as winter. Li Shimin threw a tantrum and then said, the Turks have secretly joined forces with Tubo to launch an attack on the Tang dynasty. Coincidentally, the Prince of Junla met little brother Zhang Feng. Little brother Zhang Feng took the opportunity of the meeting of the 100 tribes to dig up this matter. What? Everyone was shocked. Thus, everyone thought of what the emperor had just asked and the border issue. At this moment, everyone suddenly felt a chill all over their bodies. Your Majesty, I'm willing to lead 100,000 troops to destroy the bastards of Tubo. While we're at it, we'll make a trip to Old Man Shelley's territory and take his head. Qing Yaojin was furious. Li Jing was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He knelt down and asked for orders. This was a slap in the face. They didn't even notice it under their noses. What was this? This was mocking them. However, Li Shimin waved his hand and said, this matter doesn't need to be so troublesome for the time being. There's still room for negotiation. Is your Majesty talking about King Junla? Does little brother Zhang Feng have a backup plan? Feng Xianling asked in a trembling voice. But if we don't send troops to deter them, won't it help the Turks to become arrogant? If that's the case, won't my negotiations with Tubo be even more disadvantageous? Your Majesty, please understand. Your Majesty! Wei Zheng bowed and interrupted Du Ruhui. Your Majesty, could it be that King Junla mobilized the entire country to send the first batch of goods of the Tang dynasty to test us? Doesn't that mean that this matter has been a trap from the beginning? I think that if that's the case, Your Majesty, please take back the order and cut off the trade with Junla. Junla's ambition is not to be pitied. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly asked for orders. Your Majesty, please take back the order and expel Junla. Chapter 173. In fact, Li Shimin had also thought about this. However, after thinking about it, he finally rejected this idea. This way, the effect would be the same. Moreover, if this trade was really cut off, wouldn't King Junla's 300,000 troops instantly invade the Tang dynasty? This was an army of 300,000. I was too careless. Li Shimin felt waves of dizziness. Brother Zhang Feng, you've really given us a difficult problem. Once it's dealt with, the Tang dynasty will really be able to suppress the surrounding areas. However, if it's not controlled well, it'll be like shooting yourself in the foot. Li Shimin knew Zhang Feng's intention. If it was a small business transaction, or if Li Shimin was really a businessman, then the threat caused by the whole thing to Li Shimin was next to nothing. At most, he would go to jail, at most, he would lose his head. However, he was different. He was Li Shimin, the emperor of the Tang dynasty. Although Zhang Feng had inadvertently found out about this matter and wanted to find the problem from this clue, once this problem was revealed, Li Shimin really couldn't bear it. Li Shimin couldn't help but rub his aching head. When I first learned about this matter, I indeed had the same thought as you. However, have you ever thought that this is a series of traps? Even without King Zhenla's interference, think about it, how will this birthday celebration be? Why has Tubo been suppressing this matter? Why has the Turks been deliberately hiding the snow disaster? Until now, apart from the snow disaster, why has Brother Zhang Feng guessed that there will be a famine in the grassland after the snow disaster? Have you ever thought about these questions? I also just remembered that the Turks are planning a huge conspiracy, and Zhang Feng just happened to inadvertently tear open a hole in their plan, causing a trace of a flaw to appear in their originally perfect and impeccable plan. Li Shimin couldn't help but close his eyes. He didn't dare to think about this conspiracy. Once Tuli and Xieli joined forces with Tubo and Tuyuhun to launch an attack at the same time, could the Tang dynasty really stop them? Obviously, they couldn't stop them. The Turks were good at deceit, and now they were connected to India. In this case, the situation of Tubo's drought was worth thinking about. At this time, everyone's expression was extremely solemn. Zhang Sun Wuji stood up and asked, "Your Majesty, since Brother Zhang Feng saw the clue, does he have a plan to deal with this matter?" Everyone slapped their heads, only then they thought of Zhang Feng. That's right. Damn it. Since Brother Zhang Feng could see this, it meant that he already had a plan to deal with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be called Zhang Feng. This guy couldn't be judged by common sense. Since he was able to say such words, and the emperor was angry, but not anxious, it seemed that there was still room to turn this matter around. Your Majesty, does Brother Zhang Feng mean that he has a way to deal with this before the birthday? The birthday is a key point in this matter. Zhang Feng didn't say much because of his concerns, but how can I not know what he means? His meaning is very clear. This birthday is the turning point of the whole thing. Either we live or we die. There is no other way. Live or we die. So serious? The few old foxes were now a little confused. Zhang Sun Wuji, start the cooperative immediately. Carry out secret experiments in several states near Cheng. This must be done in the shortest time possible. Cooperative? This, Zhang Sun Wuji was dumbfounded. Your Majesty, isn't it a little? Li Shimin shook his head. This is the right time. That King Zhenla made a second batch of goods before the first batch was delivered. All of you know of this, and you also know of the Great Tang's current situation. Once the second batch of goods arrives, how will we have any money left? This is a test by Tubo and India against the Tang dynasty. Because of the blueprint and the rapid relief of the drought in Longyu, they can't see the situation clearly. Originally, Brother Zhang Feng and I thought that this natural disaster seemed to be an advantageous condition to clamp down on the situation in the surrounding areas. But I was still a little afraid. If I didn't doubt Brother Zhang Feng's words and spread the chicken and duck in all aspects in Longyu, perhaps the wealth we have now would be enough to deal with this crisis. But we've all underestimated them. Longyu Dao's confusing barrier made it impossible for them to see through it. Moreover, the Tufan Empire's action was to collaborate with the Turkic Khaganate and India. This is rather unexpected. Thus, this is actually a test of our Great Tang's wealth. Li Shimin's eyes were full of killing intent. The first time King La sent out all his troops, it was the first test of the Tang dynasty. In this, I finally understood from Zhang Feng why they sent out 300,000 troops. This is an opportunity for them. But I think that since they dared to come, this is also an opportunity for the Tang dynasty to fully carry out the plan. Li Shimin clenched his fist and slammed it on the map. This time I will not let them return. Chapter 174. Was the emperor finally going to make his move? At this moment, no one was more excited than Qing Yaojin. The absence of war for the past 2 years had tortured his bones to the point of rusting. Your Majesty, this old general is willing to lead my men. Forget it. Li Shimin waved his hand. This time, it's not about who has the bigger fist that will win this war. This is a war without gunpowder. Li Shimin thought for a moment and said, since you want to fight, then I order you to immediately arrange for your subordinates to secretly mobilize 50,000 elite troops, and you province to mobilize 50,000 as well. Both sides will attack the south. At the same time, joined forces with the other prefectures to transfer their elite troops and immediately hide in Jianan Road. But Qing Yaojin scratched his head, a little confused. On the other hand, Wei Zheng and the others were deep in thought. Li Shimin was not angry. If Qing Yaojin could understand these things from these words, he would not be Qing Yaojin. Then, Li Shimin would have to give Qing Yaojin a plaque. Yaojin, can't you see this? Zhenla came because he was pressured by Tubo and India. 300,000 soldiers using King Zhenla as a hostage to transport goods. You really didn't think of anything? Li Shimin asked patiently. Qing Yaojin sniffled, unmoved. Li Shimin felt like playing the lute to a pig. Why did King Zhenla come to Chang'an? I ask you. I know that. He's here to deliver goods. This guy is greedy. Qing Yaojin patted his chest and said disdainfully. Li Shimin asked again, then what kind of business do you think needs the emperor of a country to personally escort it? What do you think if Khan Xieli comes to Chang'an? When Qing Yaojin heard this, his eyeballs almost popped out. So, this bastard is thinking of sending his entire army to Chang'an, and then if there's even the slightest hint of something wrong, he'll start an uprising? Motherf asterisk Ker, Lao Tzu is going to tear him apart right now. Qing Yaojin was furious. Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly stopped Qing Yaojin and said, Old He, slow down. This matter still needs Shangzhu. Don't be impulsive. Listen to His Majesty's arrangements. What kind of arrangement is there? They're already bullying us, I can't tolerate it. Qing Yaojin stiffened his neck, his face flushed red. Li Shimin was also angry. He scolded, Old He, be quiet. Otherwise, I will throw you in jail. Hearing this, Qing Yaojin shrunk his neck, snorted a few times, and said no more. Li Shimin seemed to be plotting, but also seemed to be talking to himself. This time, King Zhenla actually came for 3 reasons. The first is to ensure his safety. Why? Everyone was confused. Li Shimin waved his hand, motioning for everyone to be quiet. This matter is actually not hard to imagine. Tubo often robbed Zhenla, and so did India. Zhenla could only swallow their anger. Didn't Wei Jing say it just now? Tubo people entered Zhenla from the dense forest outside Jianan Road, and then King Zhenla came to the Tang dynasty. Do you believe that King Zhenla came after receiving a message from Crown Prince Zhenla? Wrong. Because, think about it, there's actually no poisonous salt or seafood that we need in the goods this time. It's just their ordinary goods. Think about it carefully. What do these goods look like? Wei Zheng's eyes were filled with shock. Like fleeing? Li Shimin nodded. At this moment, everyone was finally overwhelmed with shock. Fleeing? How could they send out all their troops? Could it be that they wanted to take the opportunity to act when they were seeking protection? However, with such a small number of troops and a long journey, they were not familiar with the battlefield. What kind of combat power could they have? There were also many old, weak, women, and children among them. It was more like they were fleeing. Could it be they were afraid of some kind of threat, so they were preparing to flee to the Tang dynasty? When they thought of this, everyone was not stupid. They instantly understood the cause and effect of the matter. Tubo's intentions were really vicious. Poor King Zhenla. When he arrived in Chang'an, there were people from Tubo watching him. He did not dare to say anything. Therefore, he could only use himself as a hostage. Instead of saying that he lived in the East Palace, it was better to say that he requested to be placed under house arrest. Their intention. Now, do you all understand? This is only one of the reasons. The second reason is that they can use this to test the real situation of the Tang dynasty. I lost the first time. When Zhenla's army of 300,000 entered the Tang dynasty, I did not notice anything, nor did I realize anything else. This has already caused Tubo and the other countries to have the intention to make their next move. If I had taken a tougher stance back then, I might have been able to stop them from entering the Tang dynasty. Then, Tubo's plan would have been delayed and would not have exploded so quickly. The third reason is the most vicious place in Tubo. You all have heard that Longyu and Yuzhou have lost a lot of Turkic troops. Why is that? Coupled with the abnormal situation in Jianan Circuit, now you all know why I deployed so many troops there, right? Li Shimin looked at Cheng Yaojin as he said the last sentence. At this moment, if Cheng Yaojin still did not understand, he would really be a pig. Chapter 175. The temperature in the imperial study suddenly dropped a little. Cheng Yaojin was furious. Wei Zheng and the others also looked gloomy at this time. It was too vicious. The Turks really deserved to be punished. They didn't expect that the Turks had already carried out a series of operations against the Tang dynasty when they were preparing to set a trap for them. What was this? This was a slap in the face. Most importantly, even if they knew now, they couldn't fight with the Turks with real swords and spears. The Turks now had the initiative. This was the most important thing. If not for Zhang Feng's suggestion of this cooperative model, the Turks would have already noticed the flaws in Zhen Le's first trade. Time passed little by little. Li Shimin made some more arrangements. However, just as everyone was about to leave the imperial study, little Gizi gently knocked on the door of the imperial study. "Your Majesty, King Zhenla requests an audience." Li Shimin looked at the pitch-black night sky. His eyes could not help but flicker. In the end, he waved his hand and said, "Let him in." Imperial Garden, Qianglu Pavilion. These two things must be carried out at the same time tonight. The cooperative must be carried out as soon as possible, and it must not cause panic like stockpiling grain. Otherwise, I'll punish you for both crimes. Also, Old Hay, you should keep the matter of Jiannan Circuit a secret. Tell others that it's a routine patrol. I'll give you a secret order to cover it up. Your Majesty! Old General! Yes, Your Majesty! At this time, Li Jing and Cheng Yaojin no longer called themselves his officials. This was because, although this was a secret mission, it was also a military operation. Military operations should be carried out according to etiquette. Being an official in the court and a general outside the court was the Tang dynasty. This was Li Shimin's command of his generals. He dismissed everyone. A palace maid quickly changed Li Shimin's bright yellow casual clothes. At this time, the seriousness on his face was gone. Instead, he looked a little excited. The imperial garden was not far away. After exiting the back door of the imperial study and walking along a winding corridor for about 300 feet, they arrived. At this moment, there were already songstresses dancing in the air. On the second floor of the Qiong Pavilion, they were like butterflies fluttering in the light. Below the attic, rows of golden guards looked solemnly at a short and fat man with a dark complexion who was waiting at the foot of the Jade Tower. The man wasn't fat. Instead, he looked rather sturdy. However, she was not as tall as the palace maids, not to mention the Jinwu guards. She was only as tall as Wei Shuyu's chest. This person's expression was calm, and he didn't show any dissatisfaction because of his height. Just like that, he quietly stood below the Jade Tower with a guard, looking straight ahead. This person was King Zhenla. Li Shimin's entourage was very large. Rows of palace maids held up dragon head lanterns, illuminating the entire corridor. Before they arrived, they heard Xiao Gizi shout at the top of his voice, "The Emperor has arrived!" Hua! Immediately, all the golden guards, with their modeo in their hands, hit the Mingguang armor in front of their chests, and their bodies stood straight. "Welcome, Your Majesty!" The songstress on the Jade Tower also knelt on the ground at this moment. King Zhenla Lamazoya smiled heartily, bowed slightly, and said, "Your Majesty King Tang." Li Shimin smiled casually. "Ha, King Zhenla, quickly rise. Have you been living comfortably in the palace recently?" "Good. Very good. This is the best place I've ever lived in. Compared to Your Majesty King Tang's palace, my house is similar to that cow shed." "Pa, King Zhenla must be joking. Please. It's rare for the weather to be good tonight. Bring my imperial wine. I want to accompany King Lamazoya and not return until I'm drunk." The weather was good? Wei Shuyu glanced suspiciously at the dark sky. Now, it was just short of thunder and rain, right? The sky was dark like an ugly linen cloth. Where did the weather come from? However, even though Wei Shuyu was complaining, he also knew where his duty lay. Last time, he told his father about what happened in the tavern without permission. Although the emperor didn't say anything, Wei Shuyu, who was guarding outside the door, was really scared and broke out in a cold sweat. Since then, the emperor didn't seem to like him very much. Hearing that bastardly Chang'an say that the emperor seemed to be dissatisfied with him, but for the sake of his father, he escaped a disaster. Wei Shuyu couldn't help but be frightened. At this time, seeing Li Shimin, he was like a mouse seeing a cat. He was trembling with fear, for fear that he would be beaten if he didn't do a good job. Under Wei Shuyu's evasive eyes, Li Shimin glanced at him and walked up the Jade Tower with King Zhenlai's arm around his shoulder as if they had not seen each other for many years. However, looking from behind, it was as if the emperor was holding King Zhenlai with his armpit. It was awkward. In the Jade Tower, the music sounded again. After the guests sat down, Li Shimin picked up the glass cup and said, "Brother Zhuya, come on, let's toast to the friendship between the Tang dynasty and Zhenlai." Hearing this, King Zhenlai's eyes flashed and he laughed and said, "Come on, it should be me, King Jingtang." The two of them pushed each other for a long time. In the end, they drank the wine. But they just drank it. However, because of this, the topic began to unfold. King Zhenlai surveyed his surroundings, his gaze drifting about unsteadily. "King Tang, I have a presumptuous request for you this time." Li Shimin's eyes flashed. He waved his hand lightly. In an instant, a group of men in black hiding in the dark quickly lurked out. Chapter 176. The singer's voice became louder. Li Shimin smiled and said, "King Zhuya, you can speak freely. This is my harem. Even a fly can't enter without my permission." Hearing that, King Zhenlai finally relaxed. At this moment his back, which had been stiff from the collapse, was completely relaxed. This prince knows that the goods this time have somewhat embarrassed King Tang, as well as the 300,000 people. Although this prince does not know, this prince also knows that there will be a lot of criticism in the imperial court. However, this was not the intention of this prince. Li Shimin waved his hand lightly. "I know all these." "What? No?" "This." King Zhenlai's tanned face could not help but flash with shock, but it disappeared in a flash. King Tang could even kill his white horse in the Wei River Alliance. How could he not know these things? King Zhenlai could not help but feel a little lucky. Fortunately, he came to see Li Shimin tonight. Otherwise, he would definitely be destroyed in King Tang's anger this time. Before the crown prince came to Chang'an, I saw a letter sent by Songtsen Gampo's men. Li Shimin's eyes flashed. He did not say anything, but he was already extremely shocked in his heart. "Songtsen Gampo. I have his handwritten letter here. Your Highness, please have a look." King Zhenlai was also a tactful person. Seeing that Li Shimin did not speak, he simply took out the letter from his arms. But Li Shimin shook his head slightly. "I trust you." King Zhenlai did not say anything. He just cupped his fists gratefully. Then he said, "This time, I didn't come to the Tang dynasty. I originally wanted to refuse, but the people from India also came. I couldn't handle it. One tufan is already too much for this humble prince to handle. Now that India is here, this humble prince has no choice but to comply." I don't know where they got the news from, but they know that this humble king wants to trade with Great Tang. So, they had this humble king transport all the goods that could be sold to Great Tang to test his majesty. Seeing that Li Shimin did not show any emotion, King Zhenlai said again, "I also know that things are not that simple, so I took this opportunity to bring all the goods I could bring out. This way they can't threaten me. This will require His Majesty King Tang's assistance." "You're too kind. As a neighbor, I will definitely help my friends when they are in trouble. But what do you mean by bringing all the goods you could bring out? Could it be that you can't stay here any longer?" King Zhenlai sighed, took a big gulp of wine, and said, "India has already sent out more than 3,000 scouts. Tubo seems to be preparing to amass troops in Jianan. This time, whether I succeed or not, I can't hide it anymore." "So, you scattered 300,000 troops in the Tang dynasty, disguised them as businessmen, and then took the opportunity to attack at a certain time? Usurp Chang'an?" Li Shimin was a little playful. King Zhenlai's attitude was a little shaky. "You're dishonest." In that case, Li Shimin had to knock some sense into him. "I already knew about what you said when you entered the Tang dynasty. Otherwise, how could I let your 300,000 troops enter the country? Moreover, I also know about the matter regarding Tufan. So, why did you come here tonight? King Zhenla did not expect that the Tang dynasty already knew all this. The chips he had prepared before seemed to be in vain. He hurriedly got up, bowed, and said, "How can I not know the seriousness of the matter? This humble prince's visit tonight is to express my sincerity. This humble prince also knows my own weight. Therefore, on one hand, this humble prince is here to inform your majesty of the conspiracy between Tubo and India. On the other hand, it is for the sake of mutual exchange in the future. King Zhenla, you don't have to do this. After this matter is over, I won't make things difficult for you. But while this matter is going on, I hope that your people will suffer a little. I understand." After talking about serious matters, the two of them continued to drink wine and enjoy the wonderful dance as if the crisis just now did not exist. At this moment, a large plate of roasted golden mutton was suddenly brought to the Cheong pavilion by a palace maid. Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "King Zhenla, come and try this delicacy. I've long heard that King Tang's mutton is famous all over the world. I'm so lucky today." King Zhenla did not refuse. He cupped his fists and began to eat. While eating, Li Shimin asked casually, "I heard that King Zhenla's second batch of goods will pass through Jianan Road in a few days. I wonder if the goods this time are what I need?" "Don't worry. To show my sincerity, I won't take a single cent of the goods this time." "Ha, good. Thank you very much, King Zhenla." Li Shimin did not call King Zhenla by his full name, because at this time, the matter had been explained. He wanted to tell King Zhenla that although the matter between them had been clarified and Zhenla had avoided the crisis, Li Shimin was very dissatisfied because of the concealment. After the two of them toasted for a while, Li Shimin got up and left. At the moment of leaving, Li Shimin suddenly said, "When are your people going to escort the goods back to the city?" 3 days later. Then replace them with mine. Chapter 177. King Zhenla sent Li Shimin away. The smile on his face slowly turned into desolation. At this moment, looking at the pitch-black palace, he felt incomparably terrified. It was like a huge cage. Not only was this huge dragon looking down on the common people coldly, but it would also extend its sharp claws and teeth at any time. And he was a chess piece crawling at the feet of this huge dragon. It was very sad. But this was his true situation. He had to choose a faction to rely on. Otherwise, what awaited him would be complete destruction. Tubo. There was no need to think about it. This was a hungry wolf that ate meat without spitting out the bones. And India? It was the same. Previously, King Zhenla was still wavering. However, after receiving the letter from his son, he made up his mind. Since they all forced him, he would take everyone away. He knew that the Tang dynasty. He had also looked up to it before. He didn't know if the bet this time was right or wrong, but he had to consider Zhenla's future. The Tang dynasty was his last backer. Father. Unknowingly, King Zhenla had returned to that cold cage. At the door, the crown prince and the princess consort were looking forward to it. Although it was already late at night, their eyes were full of rewards. King Zhenla waved his hand, indicating for the princess consort to go to sleep. Then, he closed the door and sat quietly in the dark room with Crown Prince Shiva. Silence. A deathly silence. It was as if the two of them had fallen asleep in the darkness. It was also as if there was no one in the darkness. After an unknown amount of time, King Zhenla asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you saying that all of Zhenla's treasures were told to you by that master called Zhang Feng? Is he really just the shopkeeper of a small tavern?" "He is indeed a shopkeeper. In the future, if you have nothing to do, don't go to a small tavern." "Yes, I understand." The room was silent again. No one knew what King Zhenla was thinking. But at this moment, in Li Shimin's bedroom, Li Shimin was still awake. "Guanyin maid, do you think we are being merciful to King Zhenla this time?" Li Shimin told Empress Zhang's son everything that had happened just now, as well as what had happened in the tavern today. At this moment his mood was slightly better. At the very least, it was confirmed today that Zhenla had no intention of rebelling. "Second brother, isn't the current crisis starting to be resolved?" "Oh." Li Shimin looked at Empress Zhang's son in surprise. Empress Zhangsun pursed her lips and said, "Originally, I shouldn't have interfered with second brother's decisions, but I feel that now, we have already made a counterattack. The people of Tubo and India probably still don't know that your majesty knows about this matter. Moreover, the moment King Zhenla left, I had already cleaned up the mess. This matter won't spread for the time being. And now, the first stage of Tubo's probing has passed. Although Zhenla is helping the evildoers, he has revealed everything tonight. This is a good thing for second brother. Second brother can wholeheartedly solve the problem of Tubo. The root of the problem is still Tubo's drought. But I feel that at this time, we should give them a little warning." "What kind of warning?" Li Shimon's eyes flashed as he asked. He knew the key point of this matter. As long as they firmly controlled Tubo and Tuyuhun, the Turkic people's desire to join forces and invade the south would collapse. Moreover, as long as the cooperative was established, as long as there was a steady stream of economic recovery, they would naturally not have to worry about their probing. After all, none of them could afford to waste time. Now, as long as they dealt with Tubo, would the Turkic people and India be able to cause a ripple? Under the situation of being exhausted, everyone knew that it was a military taboo. Moreover, Shui Yentuo, who was watching the Turkic people, did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, why would he need to join forces with other countries? After thinking through all this, Li Shimon's expression could not help but soften. He could not help but smile bitterly. In the end, the Tang dynasty is still short of money. If the country is rich and the people are strong, who would dare to act rashly? Second brother, there's no need to worry too much. No one dares to carelessly start this war. Just as Zhang Feng said, whoever starts this war will be the country that will perish. What they're doing now is simply putting pressure on the great Tang. Tell me about it. Hearing this, Li Shimon's interest was aroused. He wanted to see who dared to put pressure on the Tang dynasty. Tubo. Except for Tubo, there is no one else. Second brother, have you forgotten the last negotiation? They dared to cause trouble in Chang'an city. Do you think they will let it go this time? Last time, second brother, you asked them for 40 million gold. They went back and advertised vigorously, but they could not produce it. Obviously, they have realized that they have fallen into a trap. Second brother, what do you think you will do if you are in their shoes? Li Shimon put his arms around Empress Zhangsuan's slender waist. Guanyin maid, you are really my good wife. Empress Zhangsun blushed and said coquettishly, second brother, don't be happy first. There is still one thing that needs to be done. What is it? A show of force. Chapter 178. Clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. In the quiet palace, the crisp sound of a warhorse's hooves tore through the silence of the night. As soon as the warhorse came out of Li Shimon's stable, it hurriedly held up a token, passed through various large and small doors, and disappeared into the darkness of Chang'an city. On the outer wall of Honglu Temple, 3 men in sheepskin shirts narrowed their eyes and stared at the galloping horse thoughtfully. Brother Sok, why did this horse go out at this time? Did something go wrong with our plan? In the darkness, a burly man looked at Chang'an city in the distance and asked a thin man beside him. The man was very thin, but his arms were unusually long. His palms were also unusual. They were twice the size of an adult's, like a palm leaf fan. The man narrowed his triangular eyes and glanced at Chang'an city. Then, like an ape, he climbed between the houses of Honglu Temple. After a while, he appeared in a room with an oil lamp still on. After a while, the other 2 men returned to the room. One of them was a burly man with a sallow face. He had a horn dagger at his waist and a large wine sack hanging from his neck. He was a Turkic. The other man was a Tubo man named Sok. He wore similar clothes, but his headdress was different from Sok's. He was a Tuyuhun expert named Gokopi. At this time, Sok was playing with a dagger in his hand. This matter may have nothing to do with our plan. If there's nothing else back it, I hope you can keep your mouth shut. You should know how serious this matter is. Although we're not sure if the people of the Tang dynasty can start a war, if we push them too far, we'll be in trouble. You worry too much. Didn't Zhenla, that dog fart King Zhenla, flee to the great Tang in fear? I think if King Zhenla is not a fool, his army of 300,000 must be here to take a share of the Tang dynasty. 300,000? Gecko Pai laughed disdainfully. He's such a coward. I think if the emperor of the Tang dynasty knew about this, the first person he would kill would be his father. Otherwise, why would he be grounded by Li Shimin? Don't ever mention this again. Sok glanced at the two of them with a cold expression. If anything goes wrong, I believe that your Khan and the Mun King will tear your tendons and skin you alive. When the two of them heard this, they awkwardly stopped mentioning this matter. I don't know what the higher-ups have arranged. Why are they so cautious about the Tang dynasty? Wouldn't it be easy for the four of us to conquer the Tang dynasty? At this moment, a young man in a purple robe silently appeared in the room through the window. When the people saw this person, they hurriedly bowed. Little Prince. The young man lay on the chair with his legs on the table and asked, "What's the horse that just went out for? Did you find out?" "I haven't found out yet." The three of them lowered their heads and didn't dare to speak. Even their bodies couldn't help shaking. The young man in the purple robe looked at them playfully. "Forget it. It's not important. I've already dealt with the person. He's a messenger who went to Longyu Road to deliver a letter. The dog emperor wants to eat locusts' eggs in the middle of the night. He's really stupid. Okay, you can leave now. Continue to monitor every movement in the imperial city. Don't touch King Zhenla for the time being. Now the security there is tight. Even I can't get in." What could they say? What else could they say? At this time, they had no choice but to agree. This person was Xieli's eldest son, the future Khan of the Turks. How could they dare to offend him? They left embarrassedly. However, they didn't know that they were in the Tang dynasty. And they were in the deepest part of the Tang dynasty, the Honglu Temple, which was specially used to receive foreign guests. Their every move and everything that happened just now had been secretly recorded in a small notebook by the palace experts hiding in the dark. As for the person who just went out, he was a prisoner on death row. He was just a puzzle sent to them. If Li Shimin couldn't even think of this, he wouldn't be Li Shimin. After a while, in Li Shimin's bedroom, Wei Shuyu knocked on the door of Li Shimin's room. "Your Majesty, it's done. It's just as your Majesty expected." Li Shimin didn't even open the door. He looked at Zhang Feng's calligraphy and wrote something on a piece of rice paper. Hearing this, Li Shimin's expression didn't change. He said lightly, "Send an order. Keep a close watch on the Honglu Temple. Their every move must be reported at any time. Even if their servants go out, where they go and who they come into contact with, they must be reported to me as soon as possible." Wei Shuyu was silent for a moment. She asked, "Your Majesty, what if they go out in the middle of the night?" Li Shimin said lightly, "Kill them." "Yes, Your Majesty. Also, the people who go to Longyu can set off now. Let the people in Longyu chop the water wheel. There's no need to hide this matter. It's best to let the whole world know." Wei Shuyu trembled all over. She hurriedly accepted the order. "Yes, Your Majesty." Chapter 179. Tonight was destined to be a restless night in Chang'an City. The night watchman had just struck the gong. Groups of men in black rushed out from the depths of the palace. They were densely packed. The gambling house was still shrouded in smoke. There were oil lamps, the stench of sweat, the stench of feet, the sourness of wine, and piles of vomit. One could even find a few fresh or rotten broken fingers in the corner. This was the gambling house. The gambling house of the Tang dynasty. It was a cancer of society. But even the government could not eradicate it completely. There were always people licking the blood on the tip of the knife. This included a gambling house set up by the Turks in the corner of the East Market of Chang'an City. Even the patrolling soldiers could not touch the darkness here. In the darkness, a group of strong men in night-walking clothes flashed into the gambling house through the secret door. In the hustle and bustle, the man held a straw in his mouth as soon as he entered. When the steward saw the straw, he hurriedly stepped aside and opened the curtain behind him to let the man in. In this room, a dim oil lamp was burning. The room was extremely simple. There were no unnecessary decorations. There was a table, a chair, and a bed. That was all. But when the man entered the room, he lifted the bedboard skillfully. There was a dim light and a faint smoke curling in the air. The man listened quietly for 10 breaths. When he found that no one had entered, he jumped into the cave. Along the stairs, the man turned left and turned again. Then, he entered a spacious underground room that looked like a yurt. The room was very large, and cracks could be seen all over the pale yellow walls. It was obvious that this secret room had been here for many years. In the room, the sound of a woman's unrestrained laughter could be heard, as well as the sound of rough breathing. The man did not look up. As soon as he entered, he knelt on one knee and waited quietly. In front of him, there were 3 small rooms with no doors on a large red sandalwood bed. On the bed, he could vaguely see at least 10 women on the bed, and he could also vaguely see a few muscular men among them. The man's appearance did not attract the slightest bit of attention. It was as if he was air. A moment later, a bare-chested burly man with a scar on his face came out from behind the curtain. The man reported in a low voice. Reporting to Chief, the young Khan has sent a letter. The man heard this. His expression changed and he waved his hand, ordering all the women to enter a dark hut at the back of the room. At this time, the burly man asked, "Little Khan, what are your orders?" The little Khan asked the leader to seize the time to stock up on provisions. The little Khan predicted that there might be changes at any time, so he asked the leader to temporarily close the gambling house to avoid attracting the attention of the Tang dynasty's government. Close the gambling house? That's easy for him to say. Then why didn't he pay for me? If I don't have money, how am I supposed to buy food? The brawny man shouted angrily. He smashed the rosewood bed railings with his palm. You tell the little Khan. Now I have prepared 500 dawn of food and stored it in a safe place outside the city to facilitate movement. There are also 3,000 dawn of food. It is estimated that in a few days it will be transported out of the city. Ask him to find a caravan to transport it to the grassland. As for Lao Tzu's gambling house, he can't care about it. Get lost. Zhang Feng did not sleep well. He did not know why. It was so quiet that he could hear a mouse running next door. He did not know what was wrong with the room these days. It was so noisy in the middle of the night. And he did not know if there was something wrong with his bed or if he was hallucinating. He could always hear women's coquettish complaints by chance. This was terrible. As soon as he heard this voice, he went crazy. Was he sick? At this time, Zhang Feng grabbed his hair and sat cross-legged on the bed, thinking hard about whether he should find a doctor to take a look. This was obviously not right. Previously, when he said that he was thinking about women, it would not be a hallucination, right? But now? Damn it, once it was past midnight, that guy was so noisy that he was about to go crazy. Damn it, was there something wrong with holding it in? Or was there really something wrong with the room opposite? Zhang Feng was shocked. Could it be that someone opened a brothel next door? This kind of thing had happened before. In order to attract business, merchants would often open temporary brothels in Chang'an city in the middle of the night in some unoccupied shops. However, Zhang Feng had read about this in the unofficial history books. He also heard about it from the old man who wrote at the corner of the street. At that time, the old man's eyes were no longer cloudy. It was as if he was talking about his glorious past. Something's not right. Zhang Feng finally exploded when he heard a woman's coquettish complaint. He hid in the corner and listened without even turning on the lights. The walls of the ancient times, especially the walls of the houses, were made with an inexhaustible amount of mud. In addition, mice were diligently digging holes every day. Basically, as long as one squatted in the corner of the wall, one could hear the conversation of the neighbors through the mouse hole. However, when Zhang Feng put his ear to the mouse hole, he really heard that something was not right. It was actually a gambling den opposite. Damn it. How could this be? However, at this moment, he suddenly realized that there was someone outside the window. In the night, a figure was standing quietly outside the window. His ear was pressed against the paper window, listening to the movement. Zhang Feng was scared out of his wits. At this moment, he really hoped that the dam system would be activated at this time. However, things did not go as he wished. Zhang Feng could only pretend to be asleep. He squatted in the corner and snored softly. After hearing the snoring, the person outside the window slowly left. At this moment, he and the person outside were only separated by a thin piece of paper window. Damn it! After the person left, Zhang Feng took a deep breath. He subconsciously pressed his eyes against the window and looked outside. In the moonlit night, a person dressed in night clothes was slowly disappearing into the night. Night walking clothes? Did he need night walking clothes to enter a gambling den? Chapter 180. That night, Zhang Feng slept very badly. So much so that when the sun was high up in the sky, he still had panda eyes and mosquito kisses all over his face. He was snoring loudly in the shadow under the crooked tree. So much so that Guzi and the others came. Seeing that there was no business to be done, they covered Zhang Feng's face with a lotus leaf and left. Gulp, gulp. After some time, Zhang Feng was so hot that he almost stopped breathing. Then he woke up amidst the protest of his stomach. What entered his eyes was a large patch of green, which almost made Zhang Feng think that he had transmigrated again. After pondering for a long time, he realized that this thing was just a lotus leaf. Zhang Feng was so angry that he cursed Guzi and said that he was going to murder him. It also attracted a few patrolling guards. After confirming that this was a farce, the guards left with a strange expression. There was no choice. It was useless to say anything now. The most important thing was to worship the temple of the 5 viscera first. Yelt. The boss of a dumpling stall across the street brought a big bowl of dumplings over. He didn't even want the money and left. How could Zhang Feng be willing? While the two of them were arguing, the man who bought the dumplings became anxious. He grabbed Zhang Feng's collar and asked, "Are you going to eat it or not?" Zhang Feng was terrified. He raised his hands in surrender. Only then did the man put him on the ground in satisfaction. The Tang people were so simple. The name of a good person was useful. Even if you went out to eat, you didn't need to bring money at all. If you dared to mention money, the boss of the stall would either hold a kitchen knife, a rolling pin, or a fist as big as a sandbag to greet you. What a cute and simple person. Zhang Feng squatted on the ground, holding the big bowl and sucking the dumplings. A bowl of dumplings finally stopped his stomach from making a fuss. Zhang Feng had nothing to do again. He moved the stool to a shady place. Seeing the daughter of the boss of the dumplings staring at him, Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "Xiaoya, come over here." The little girl responded in a crisp voice, and then ran over eagerly. Usually, when Zhang Feng was bored to death, he would find some children to play with him in the shop. What kind of games? They were competing to see who could eat faster. Moreover, all the children were fascinated by the big mouth game that he invented. Xiaoya was only 8 or 9 years old. Because she was malnourished, her hair was still yellow like straw. She wasn't afraid when she saw Zhang Feng. She asked, "Brother, are we going to play the game of Big Mouth? Brother Guzi and the others aren't here." No. Look at this. As he spoke, Zhang Feng took out a piece of silver from his bosom and said, "Big brother isn't feeling well today. Help Big brother fan me, and Big brother will give you money, okay?" "No. Big brother is a good person. Daddy won't let me take your money." As she spoke, the little girl didn't even look at the pitch-black silver in Zhang Feng's hand that was full of teeth marks. That was awkward. Zhang Feng scratched his head. "Then help Big brother fan me. When Big brother is better, I'll give you braised pork, okay?" "Okay." The deal was quickly reached. Zhang Feng lay on the recliner happily. The little girl started fanning with all her might. Although her little clothes were already drenched, at the thought of being able to eat delicious braised pork with her mother at night, Xiaoya held back her strength and started fanning with all her might. In fact, Xiaoya's father had already seen it, but he pretended not to see it. Zhang Feng was a good person. That was something that everyone on this street knew. However, Zhang Feng also had a nickname. Slacker. The super lazy kind. Moreover, he was a prodigal. He didn't run the shop properly and only knew how to sleep all day. Not to mention that no one knew where he got the money from. Every day, he would take out a handful of money and give it away. This also made the neighbors sigh secretly. He was a good person. However, he was a poor man. At the age of 20, he didn't join the army, nor did he go to the Imperial College. All he did was sleep all day. And he was King Bachelor. As a man, Boss Hun saw the heavy dark circles under Zhang Feng's eyes at a glance. He was missing a woman. Alas. Such a good boy. Is there something wrong with his body or something? At the thought of this, Boss Hun Dun endured the pain and went to the winery next door to buy 2 taels of wine. Then he walked slowly to Zhang Feng's side. Little brother, you're still sleeping there. Seeing that Xiaoya's father was here. How could Zhang Feng still be sleepy? Hey, brother you're not guarding the stall? Hey, what's there to guard? There's no one here. Besides, I have a problem with that guy. Even if I leave it on the street, no one will want it. It's all because I'm popular. Brother he smiled honestly and said, Feng, I see that you have dark circles under your eyes these days. Could it be that you didn't sleep well? If there's something wrong with your body, go see a doctor. Although I don't have money, I'm familiar with all the neighbors on this street. I know a doctor who specializes in men's diseases. Why don't you? Fine. Zhang Feng's face instantly darkened. Brother Fine, I'm all right. There's no problem. Although he said so, Zhang Feng still felt a little guilty. Damn, he was hallucinating. But he was sure that there was nothing wrong with him. It was embarrassing to say this in front of Xiaoya. Seeing that Mr. He was carrying a bamboo bottle of wine, he pulled Mr. He into the store. Brother we've known each other for more than half a year, but you haven't tasted my cooking. Today, I'll let you have a taste. Let's talk while eating. Mister. He was flattered and waved his hand repeatedly. But he couldn't resist Zhang Feng's persuasion. Just now, he seemed to have pushed Zhang Feng into a corner. Now, Mr. He was holding his collar, but his face was red and he couldn't pull it up. Finally, Mr. He compromised. Okay, let's go in. I have something important to tell you. Chapter 181. There wasn't anything good in the shop. Zhang Feng simply removed a leg of lamb and washed it in a big pot. Then he set up a firewood and burned it. A moment later, the fragrance of meat wafted in the air. Old He and his daughter, Xiaoya, widened their eyes and swallowed their saliva. Poor people basically relied on squatting in the wild to eat meat. If they could get it, it would be enough to last them for half a month. If they couldn't, they would go to the river to try their luck and see if they could catch a fish to satisfy their cravings. As for pork and mutton, they didn't even dare to think about it. Usually, the wild rabbits around Chang'an were extinct. The bigger ones hid in the depths of the Qinling Mountains. Therefore, for the commoners, they were still considered lucky. At least they could start a small business and feed their family. Sometimes, if they were lucky, they might be able to see some meat during the new year. Only Zhang Feng didn't care about their status. Sometimes, when he was happy, he would give Xiaoya a piece of meat and say that it had gone bad and couldn't be eaten anymore. However, Old He knew that it wouldn't be a problem to keep it for at least a month. Even if it went bad, it would be boiled in water and eaten together with the soup. How could there be any smell of rancidity? In the end, Old He could only sigh that Zhang Feng was a prodigal. The dishes are here. Just as Old He's imagination was running wild, Zhang Feng shouted and came out with a big tray. There weren't many dishes. 5 plates. 1 plate of hand-shredded lamb. The other plate was cut into pieces and dipped in vinegar. There were also a few stir-fried dishes and a big bowl of rice. When Xiaoya saw the meat, she pounced on it. Old He was so anxious that he grabbed Xiaoya's yellow braid and was about to hit her. Zhang Feng hurriedly stopped Old He. Hey, she's a child. Let her eat. We don't have much, but we have a lot of meat. Don't let the child suffer. Old He choked. He patted Zhang Feng's shoulder hard. Fengzi, I know you're a good person. In this world, there aren't many living bodhisattvas like you. But Fengzi, I want to ask you something. You have to answer me honestly. Zhang Feng saw that Uncle He was being so cautious, so he put down the piece of meat that Xiaoya was fighting for and asked, Tell me. Let me ask you, are you, as he spoke, he glanced at Zhang Feng's crotch. Zhang Feng immediately exploded. Old He, what are you saying? I, Zhang Feng, am upright and honest. I'm a man, not a castrate. That's good. Old Ho patted his chest, picked up the bowl of wine, and gulped it down in one gulp. 2 taels of wine in a bamboo flask was not much, but Zhang Feng had a lot of good wine. As soon as he entered, he smelled the aroma of wine. He was a little embarrassed to take out his wine, but it would be inappropriate if he didn't bring anything when he came to talk to him. Zhang Feng didn't mind his wine. He finished a bowl of it. Seeing that there was no more wine, he turned around and took 2 jars from the counter. Old he, let's drink to our heart's content today. If you have something to say, say it. Brother, if you don't want to take a look, I'll show you. As he spoke, Zhang Feng was about to unbuckle his belt. However, Old Ho pulled him back. I believe you. But if you don't find a wife like this, it's not a good idea either. You spend money like water every day. This is not good. Yes, you have a wife to do the housework for you. What did he mean? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. It seemed that Old He's purpose for coming here today was not pure. I know you don't like people like us, but it's not good for the neighbors to see you like this. 20 years old and not marrying is disrespectful to your ancestors. I can't watch you go on like this. There are 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no descendants is the worst. You're not young anymore. I've been looking on the streets during this period of time and really found a young lady from a big family. She looks very similar to the singers at the entrance of Ziyun restaurant. Nod your head. If you like her, we'll find a matchmaker. Fine, fine, fine. Oldie brother. We're not in a hurry. We're only 20 years old. Zhang Feng was going crazy. They were matchmakers. Why were Lao Li and the others like this? Even Oldie was like this? Was he such an eyesore? Oldie could not take it anymore. He stretched out his rough hand and pointed at Zhang Feng's eyes, saying, Look at your eyes. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? You're already like this. Why don't you find a wife? How about this? If you don't like her, you can go to Ziyun restaurant to vent your anger. It's not good to keep holding it in. I heard that the prostitutes there only earn $1 a night. This bit of money is nothing to you, right? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. Ziyun restaurant? You want Lao Tzu to go there? Zhang Feng was a little suspicious. Old He had some ulterior motives. Old He, to be honest, I haven't been sleeping well these days. It's not because of anything else. Every night, there will be a squeaking sound coming from the old house next door. It's like a brothel. I feel like I'm living in a brothel. Old He, who used to live next door. Is it haunted? This has caused me to be unable to sleep for the entire night. Hearing that, Old He finally understood. So this was the reason for this boy's troubles? Old He could not help but let out a soft cry of surprise. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have noticed. During this period of time, I've always seen a group of bearded men coming in and out. A few of them were eating dumplings at my stall and spoke Turkic. Turkic? Chapter 182. When Zhang Feng heard that, he immediately felt that something was wrong. No wonder. That's what I thought. Usually, the house next door was like a haunted house. Why did it suddenly become like this? Zhang Feng couldn't help but come forward and ask, Old He, I just found out that there was someone next door in the middle of the night a few days ago. Do you think the person next door was here before or recently? Old He scratched his head, picked up a lamb bone, and said while chewing, Now that you mention it, I also thought of it. This house used to belong to a rich family. I don't know what happened, but they broke the law and were chased out of Chang'an city. No one has lived here for about 5 years. However, about half a month ago, there was a black man who smelled of rank odor in front of this house. He even squatted there for a long time. Then he saw people carrying out large carts of soil from time to time. Oh right, Go Z and the others even dug out a few copper coins from the soil. I heard that the pile of soil under the old willow tree by the Qingshui River outside Chang'an city was from this house. There weren't many people. I even saw some Huzi and Huzi. They all went in when the sky was dark. All right. Old He patted his head and scratched his sweat towel with his big oily hand. He said, One night I went to a funeral banquet. I had nothing to do at night, so I brought food to my wife. I also saw a Turkic man wearing jewelry go in. I was drunk at that time, so I didn't pay attention to it. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. He said that it was unintentional. But Zhang Feng was shocked. Damn it. What was this? This damn Turkic man was acting like a spy beside Lao Tzu. Damn it. How could this be? Damn it. Seeing Zhang Feng's gloomy face, Old He didn't say anything. Old He stopped talking and went forward to ask, "What's wrong? Have you been there before?" "What do you mean?" Old He glanced at Zhang Feng meaningfully. "So what if I've been there? I'm a man. What's the big deal about playing around?" "Really haven't been there?" Old He asked in a low voice. Zhang Feng's head was as white as a rattledrum. "Never been there. Why would I go there? If I want to go, I'll go to those big gambling houses. That would be more in line with our identity." "But Old He, have you heard what's inside? Why does it always open after the curfew? This doesn't make sense." There was something strange about this gambling house. Generally, the gambling houses in Chang'an city were set up by the government. There were also black market merchants, but basically, they were all registered in the government office. However, the one next to his was obviously not the case. Which legitimate casino would open in the middle of the night? This isn't right. "You don't know?" Seeing Zhang Feng like this, Old Ho confirmed that he didn't go next door. He then drank a bowl of wine and said, "Here. It seems like you haven't been there before. I'm relieved. You don't know, but a butcher from Ping and Fang went in a few days ago. On the second day, someone found that 3 of his fingers were missing. And I heard that not only did he lose his shop overnight, but he also owed a huge debt. That gambling house is set up for the rich. Many rich people in the city have visited it before. I heard that the gambling house doesn't accept much money. Instead, it has a special liking for food. Sigh. What kind of world is this? The owner of the gambling house doesn't like money, but wants food instead? Although the price of food in Chang'an city is unusually high recently, it doesn't make sense to play like this, right? If the government finds out about this, he'll be beheaded sooner or later. But even so, there are still people who want to die. Do you know why? Old He asked Zhang Feng with a sly face. Zhang Feng's face was extremely gloomy. Old He pursed his lips. He was extremely disgusted with Zhang Feng, who didn't know anything. "There's a woman in there. I heard from the butcher that there's a cave under the gambling house. The decoration there is similar to that of a palace. And there are a dozen or so ladies and women from the Central Plains. They're so beautiful that they look like they came out of a painting. They're even prettier than the top hostesses in Chang'an city's top Cueyun restaurant. You know Cueyun restaurant, right? It was said that the top hostess, Big Shot, was only good enough to serve tea and water wherever she went. TSK. I don't know which rich family owns it. If you lose money, not only will you chop off your fingers, but you'll also have to pay your debt with food. If you win, you'll get a free night's sleep." Old He seemed to be drunk. He spoke eloquently as if it was one of the biggest regrets of his life that he had never been in there. However, Zhang Feng didn't think so when he heard it. Now, everyone in Chang'an city knew that the imperial palace had issued an imperial edict. Whoever dared to embezzle food would have his or her entire family executed. However, the mysterious man next door not only wanted to store food, but he also seemed to be dragging all the rich families in Chang'an city into the water. That was interesting. The Turks. Moreover, they were stirring up trouble here at such a sensitive time. This was a big move. No wonder Lao Tzu could hear that voice every day. F***ck Zhang Feng secretly spat. He looked at Old He and said, "Old He, do you believe me? Then don't do anything for now. I'll pay for the losses. I think it won't be peaceful here in the near future." Chapter 183. In the end, Uncle He did not ask anything. He was a boorish man. Zhang Feng was the most handsome man on this street. He was also the only one who could read and write. Not only that, he was so young. Who would believe if not him? Besides, Uncle He also felt that something was wrong recently. He seemed to have thought of something and said, "By the way, Feng Zi, a few days ago, I heard from the night watchman, Erbanzi, that 5 days ago, after he knocked on the clock, he was taking a nap in the Wei family's alley when he saw a group of people speaking in Turkic language driving a group of carriages. They threw bags of oilcloth that were big enough to fit a person into the river along the Yong and canal. Erbonzi saw that those people were holding shiny scimitars in their hands. Erbonzi was scared out of his wits. If not for the fact that he was drunk at the funeral last time, he would not have dared to tell anyone. Who else knows about this? Zhang Feng asked. I think it's just me, Erbonzi, butcher, and your Auntie Sunday. Zhang Feng could not help but have a playful look in his eyes. He did not ask any more questions. He drank bowl after bowl with Uncle He and pondered about this matter while drinking. Before the Tang dynasty, there were businessmen doing business in Chang'an city. It was inevitable that there would be some spies keeping watch in Chang'an city. But why would they take the biggest risk and expose themselves at this time? This matter was not simple. It was extremely complicated to train a spy, not to mention to plant a spy in a place like Chang'an city. The cost of a spy was astronomical. Losing even one would be a huge crisis. Yet the Turks still took such a risk and exposed their spies. Why was that? This was something that Shang Jue needed to know. And most importantly, what was Tubo's attitude now? He still did not know. The whole thing revolved around Tubo. But until now, there was no sign of Tubo. And was this the only spy the Turks had? Definitely not. If he could have a spy doing this, then it meant that all the Turkic spies in Chang'an city were stocking up on grain. What about Tubo? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng gripped Old He's hand and said, Old He, after you go back, you must find Zhu Zi's father and ask him to tell Zhu Zi, Guzi, and the others not to inquire about anything strange during this period of time. This matter will become known sooner or later. At that time, many people will die. Seeing that Zhang Feng had mentioned this matter twice, Old He couldn't help but become serious. He put down the lamb hoof in his hand and wiped his hands with the linen cloth on his shoulder. He asked, Feng Zi, is it the Turks? Good that you know. I reckon that they are being targeted by someone now. So, Old He, it's enough for you and me to know about this matter. This matter is too important and people will die. Good. I'll go back now. As he spoke, Old Ho grabbed Xiaoya, who was still desperately kicking the meat in her arms, and walked out of the door. Zhang Feng stopped Old He. Old He, take the meat and rice back. I can't eat it alone. Without waiting for Old He to refuse, Zhang Feng went into the room in the backyard. Of course, he wasn't going to sleep. After sleeping for a day, he had already slept enough. He just wanted to confirm one thing and didn't want to argue with Old He. He suddenly realized that all this seemed to be related to that dark and silly prince. Right? It was Zhenla. Could it be that this matter was caused by Zhenla? Then, Zhenla was used by Tubo and the Turks. Then, all of Zhenla's goods were transported to the Tang dynasty? This time, it was much clearer. Zhenla was just a tool used by Tubo and the Turks to test the Tang dynasty. Good plan. This was in line with the usual style of the Turks. The whole thing was under control, but the Turks were an accident. He originally thought that the Turks were suppressed by Shui Yantuo and wouldn't make a move. Well, he didn't make a move. He quietly carried out this shocking plan. He didn't want the Tang dynasty to have an easy time at all. Zhang Feng actually didn't hate the Turks. Perhaps it was because as a 21st century person, living under the flag of the Turks had this kind of feeling. However, in this feudal Tang dynasty, he didn't have a good impression of the Turks at all. F***ck. In their eyes, the people of the Tang dynasty were food, four-legged sheep, and tools to produce food for them. He somewhat underestimated these people on horseback. However, just as Zhang Feng discovered this, a voice suddenly rang out. In the palace, one secret report after another had already appeared on Li Shimin's desk. Li Shimin looked at the secret reports on the desk, and his face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip water. Prime Minister Wei, what do you think we should do? Li Shimin waved his hand and pushed the secret reports on the desk to Wei Zheng. Wei Zheng hurriedly stepped forward. It was written on the secret reports. In the west market of Chang'an city, the Hu merchants of Huayuan Square are secretly hoarding food, suspected to be related to the Turks. The pawnshop of Chonghua Square is wantonly collecting money recently and signed a contract with a grain merchant for 300 dawn of food. In the brothel of Yongding Square in the East Market, The Tubo people are suspected to be active there. The details are unknown. The people of Honglu Temple have been in close contact with the East and West markets recently. Reading the situation on the secret reports, Wei Zheng's face turned pale. Your Majesty, this, I ask you, kill or not? Chapter 184. Li Shimin was really angry. To think that there was such a shameless person hiding right under his nose. How could he not be angry? If this happened elsewhere, he would turn a blind eye to it. He could catch all of them in one fell swoop and make a lot of money. But this time, he couldn't bear it. This was his territory. If these people jumped out like this, what about other places in the Tang dynasty? What would happen then? Summon Zhang Sun Wuji. Seeing that Wei Jing didn't speak, Li Shimin shouted angrily. A moment later, Zhang Sun Wuji rushed into the imperial study, panting heavily as he lifted his robe. Before he said anything, Li Shimin shouted, Zhang Sun Wuji, do you know your crime? I know my crime. As the Minister of Justice, didn't you notice all the movements in Chang'an City? I just want to ask, are I raising pigs? Chang'an City is going to revolt. Can you pretend not to see it? Don't think I'm a fool. I don't know about your industries. I didn't ask about it. You're all meritorious officials. I'm just giving you benefits. But how do you explain this? Li Shimin was furious. Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji immediately knelt down. Read the secret report. Li Shimin didn't say anything. He turned around and looked at the birds in the birdcage outside the window. Zhang Sun Wuji finally dared to breathe. He quickly grabbed the secret report scattered on the ground and hurriedly read it. The more he read, the more Zhang Sun Wuji's hands trembled. In the end, Zhang Sun Wuji's entire body was trembling as if he was suffering from epilepsy. Your Majesty, it's my fault. I know my crime. I know you have a mouth. But did I ask you about this? I asked you how to solve it. Li Shimin suddenly roared. This was something that had never happened before. At the very least, it had never happened to any of them. But today, Li Shimin was furious because of this. How could Zhang Sun Wuji not know the stakes involved? However, he had been busy with the cooperative recently, so he hadn't neglected this matter. But what did the emperor mean now? He couldn't figure it out. He couldn't help but muster up his courage to ask, Your Majesty, are the people involved in this case killed? Kill. If you find one, kill one. Li Shimin's aura was biting cold. However, at this moment, Wei Jing hurriedly said, Your Majesty, you can't kill him. Why can't I kill him? Now, they are all in the dark and we all know what they are doing. We only need to do a little work, and when the birthday is over and the matter of Jean La's second batch of goods is settled, they can't help but take action. Then we can suppress them with thunderous means. Isn't that better? If we take action now, although we can eliminate them as quickly as possible, we don't know where else they are hiding. I think we should observe first. Follow the vine to find the melon until we catch the big fish. Then we can take action in a hurry. What's more, this is the Tang dynasty, Chang'an City. When the time comes, we can close the door and beat the dogs. It's the best way to deter the world. Li Shimin was silent. Zhang Sun Wuji also breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Li Shimin waved his hand and said, I'll give you 2-3 days to find out the stronghold of these rats in Chang'an City. If you can't find it, you will be punished severely. Yes, Your Majesty. You may leave. Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji then left the imperial study without daring to breathe loudly. As soon as they went out, Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly pulled Wei Zheng and said, Prime Minister Wei, you have to save us. This time, the emperor is really angry. But you know, I'm busy with the cooperative now. This, Lord Zhangsun, I've decided. The emperor has given a clear hint on this matter. Wei Zheng said while stroking his beard. Zhang Sun Wuji was confused. He pulled Wei Zheng to a bush not far from the imperial study. Prime Minister Wei, you said that the emperor has given a hint on this matter? Did you forget one person? Tell me, Brother Zifeng? Wei Zheng didn't say anything and just walked away leisurely. Only he can help you with this matter. Hey, old Wei, don't run away. You old man, I almost fell for your tricks. You have a part to play in this matter too. Zhang Sun Wuji was almost confused by Wei Zheng. But when he saw that Wei Zheng was about to leave, he remembered that it was the emperor who gave them this matter. Moreover, he couldn't do it alone. Among them, he had to ask the secretaries to issue the official documents and the minister's residence. Even if Zhang Sun Wuji had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to handle it all. Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but lift his robe and catch up with Wei Zheng. He sat down on his soft sedan chair, causing Wei Zheng to frown. "Why are you sticking to me like this? Go do what you need to do." "Hey, old Wei, this matter was given to us by the emperor. Do you still want to work hard? Don't even think about it." Wei Zheng was speechless. "Old man is going to the secretaries. Why are you following him? Secretaries? Do you think I'm stupid? This is the way back to the residence. Old man's body is unwell. How can I trouble Zhang's? Get out of here. Don't play dumb with me. Do you think I don't know? Last night, you were drinking with Fang Xianling and were caught by the guards. Don't you think so?" Wei Zheng was also angry. He didn't sleep well last night. Now that he finally wanted to take this opportunity to go back and rest, this old fox was actually angry? "Zhang Sun, you scoundrel, what do you want?" Chapter 185. The two of them quarreled in the palanquin. In the end, they did not return home. They found a shop in Chang'an and bought 2 sets of clothes. They disguised themselves as ordinary people and rushed to Zhang Feng's tavern in a fit of pique. They even sent away their attendants. Zhang Feng was very bored. On tidying up day, he slept during the day and suffered in pain and anticipation at night. In 3 days, he had basically confirmed one thing. The people living next to him were really Turks. Almost every day, there would be a fixed number of 5 wealthy merchants from Chang'an entering the manor. There were even people from the government mixed in. This did not include some new faces. Fortunately, this place was located in a remote area. Basically, the patrolling soldiers would turn around in front of Zhang Feng's tavern. Although Zhang Feng's tavern was at a crossroad, there was no one in the alley inside the tavern. Usually, even children did not dare to play in the tavern. It was said that there was a rich man in the previous dynasty who offended Yang Guang. In the end, his whole family was executed. The ancient people were superstitious. They always said that there were ghosts that came out in the middle of the night to take lives. As a matter of fact, Zhang Feng was not the only one who was tortured in the middle of the night. At this time, groups of women carrying candles and ingots were on the street not far from Zhang Feng's tavern. They burned so much that the patrolling soldiers thought that the tavern was on fire. Everyone was burning joss paper and begging the ghosts not to take their lives. Even the rich had to hire Daoist priests and monks to perform rituals on the streets. They were so noisy that Zhang Feng could not sleep well. Once, a cow's nose even pulled Zhang Feng and pointed at Zhang Feng's panda eyes, telling the onlookers that he was possessed by evil spirits. In the end, if old he and his father had not guessed the protector with a shoulder pole, Zhang Feng would have been miserably cheated. After that, Zhang Feng did not dare to sleep in front of the tavern during the day. Who knew when someone would use a boy's urine to exorcise him? He couldn't get angry yet. All he could do was stare at the man and mutter, "This is all for your own good. What's wrong with being possessed by evil? You haven't married yet. Do you want me to arrange a marriage for you? That daughter of mine is more beautiful than anything else." But when Zhu Xinyang came to Zhang Feng with a strong woman with a big waist, Zhang Feng held the kitchen knife and was about to go crazy. Only then did the crowd stop wanting to propose marriage to him. It was too King scary. For example, the flowers were scary. If he were to marry her, Zhang Feng would probably be scared to death in the middle of the night. Sigh. It's too damn difficult. Zhang Feng looked up at the sky and sighed. However, he was reprimanded by Zhu Zi's mother. "Man, if you don't find a wife, you'll bring shame to your ancestors. Tell Auntie, which family's girl do you like? Even if she's a concubine, you should marry one. If you endure like this, even if you don't feel uncomfortable, we feel uncomfortable watching it. Auntie, I actually have a wife. She's currently studying at Han University." Zhang Feng was helpless. He could only use a girlfriend he had dated online for 3 years in his previous life, whom he had met 3 times, and who was about 9 years older than him. But this time, it was over. The entire neighborhood knew in the next moment. Sigh, Fengzi, where is your wife from? Is she good at giving birth? Where is Han University? Why haven't I stopped? Fengzi, are you fooling old man? Studying? Do you think old man studied Confucius for nothing? Which girl who can study isn't a lady from a wealthy family? If you can marry her, old man will take your surname. This was the roar of old man, who wrote letters for others on the street. As for the purpose, Sima Zhao's heart was enough. The old man wanted to find a good family for his 14-year-old granddaughter. Zhang Feng, who was literate, handsome, and had a family with too much money to spend, had become his target. Now that he knew that Zhang Feng had a wife, how could he be willing? This was difficult to handle. Old man, I appreciate your kindness, but this marriage was decided by my parents. Moreover, it was decided when I was young. You can't expect me to be an unfilial son, right? Sigh. Forget it, forget it. This old man doesn't understand young people's matters. Old man flicked his sleeves. When he saw the silver ingot in his sleeve, he said to the crowd, everyone leave. Don't worry about Fengzi's matters. Put away your thoughts. Only then did the crowd leave in embarrassment. Zhang Feng couldn't wait to slap himself a few times. If he knew that the silver ingot would be useful, why didn't he take it out earlier? *CK. He even said that he was Confucius's student. Confucius had already ascended to immortality for hundreds of years. How dare he claim to be his student? Aren't you afraid that those Shandong scholars will hear you and beat you with a board? However, he could only think about this in his heart. Who knew if old man was really from Shandong before? Otherwise, he would have been caught and beaten by the authorities if he was an ordinary person who shouted on the street all day long. Zhang Feng was about to close the door with a bang. But at this moment, a teasing voice stunned Zhang Feng. Yo, brother Zhang Feng's popularity is getting better and better. Chapter 186. They were Zhang Sun Wuji and Wei Zheng, who was panting. Zhang Feng looked at the two men, who were sweating profusely and panting like old cows. He was dumbfounded. Old Sun, old Wei, are you being chased by ghosts? Don't talk. Give old man a bowl of water first. Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji did not have the strength to speak. They hunched over and held onto the door sill. When they finally sat on the chair, they began to moan. What's going on? Zhang Feng was confused. He hurried to the kitchen and scooped a ladle of warm water for them. When the two men saw each other, they immediately began to fight over the water. Fine, I have to give them some more. Otherwise, neither of us can drink the water. Don't worry. I'll give you some. Both of you have some. Zhang Feng finally managed to serve the two men, who were about to explode. He asked carefully, Masters, are you running a race in Chang'an City? Kid, how can you say that? What's a race? It's a competition to see who can run faster. Zhang Feng saw that the two men were flushed and their voices were hoarse. He quickly changed his name. Zhang Sun Wuji said in a rough voice, Brother Zhang Feng, you can't make the decision. This old man is shameless. Lao Li ordered us to do something important. Good Lord, this guy went to drink with prostitutes last night and was caught by the night patrol. He was locked up for the night. He wanted to take this opportunity to go home and slack off. I just said a few words to him. Hey, old son, you're good. You didn't do a good job in this matter. Lao Li just said a few words to me. You took it seriously? Besides, last night, old man only went to Wentai Lu to drink tea and discuss poetry with his friends. How is that drinking with prostitutes? Then, is it true that he was locked up in prison? Don't deny it. I have evidence. He. Yes, so what? Do you think old man is afraid of you? Zhang Feng's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He looked speechlessly at the two old men, who were in their 50s, talking about each other like two old kids. What the hell is going on? Lao was annoyed enough. Zhang Feng was furious. Just as the two old men rolled up their sleeves and were about to fight, Zhang Feng roared, Don't make a ruckus. Shut up. Needless to say, this roar instantly stunned both of them. After a while, the two of them looked at Zhang Feng with red eyes and thick necks. Zhang Feng shrunk his neck. Please continue. Just pretend that I didn't say anything. He was terrified. But how could they continue now? They said fiercely to each other. They sat on the chairs and sulked after fighting again in the future. Zhang Feng carefully hid in the kitchen. He chopped up the pig offal that he had just braised in the morning and put 2 jars of wine on the table. Until now. The 2 old men wrinkled their noses and sniffed the aroma. Without waiting for instructions, they picked up their chopsticks and waited with shining eyes. Without waiting for Zhang Feng to put down his plate, the 2 of them took out the plate and picked up a piece of pig intestine. They started to fight over it. When they saw Zhang Feng, they frowned. Old son, I can see that you two have a lot on your mind. Did something big happen? When it came to serious matters, Zhang Sun Wuji didn't beat around the bush. As he ate the large intestine, he said vaguely, Today, there is indeed a big matter. But before we talk about it, shouldn't you tell me where Han University is? Old man thought that he had seen more than half of the Tang dynasty, but I have never heard of Han University. Zhang Feng patted his head. The people were fooled, but how could he deal with these 2 old men? He could not say that it was a university thousands of years in the future, right? It would be strange if they were not monsters. Well, let's drink. This is good wine. Zhang Feng changed the topic and said vaguely. But the 2 old men were smart people. How could they not know that he was changing the topic? Brother Zhang Feng, you should talk about Han University. It's not too late to drink while talking. Yes. I'm really curious about this matter. I was thinking if I should go to Zhenla to find you a beautiful woman. But I just heard that you have a wife. What's going on? I can't hide anymore, Zhang Feng sighed. At this time, he finally understood the price of lying. Often, a casual lie would require countless lies to make up for it. This was just the beginning and it was already like this. What about later? Zhang Feng felt a headache just thinking about it. Han University, it's a place in the southern foot of the Qinling Mountains. We call it Han University. It's a place between Liangzhou and Lizhou. Oh! The 2 of them thought for a long time and finally asked. I've heard of that place. I heard that it was the place where Liu Bang rose to power during the 3 Kingdoms period. Is it there? Old Wei, you know that place too. Yes, it's there. My house is in a place called Nyangzi Pass in the southern foot of the Qinling Mountains. Nyangzi Pass? Wei Jing thought for a while and looked at Zhang Sun Wuji. I've been there before. It's a good place, but it was destroyed in a war and a flood. I haven't been there in recent years. Oh right, there's a big family there. I think their surname is Zhang. Are you the son of that family? Hearing Wei Zheng's words, Zhang Feng slapped his thigh and said, Yes. Are you talking about the family at the dam in Yangtze Pass? I think so. It's been too long. I can't remember where I stayed when I was marching, so I have some impression of it. Zhang Feng sighed in his heart. Finally King fooled them. Chapter 187. Zhang Feng had the urge to cry. Status was the most taboo thing for a person. Previously, when he was with Lao Li and the others, they would ask him about this and that when they had nothing to do. However, he always played dumb. He knew that there would be a day when he could not hide it. However, there was nothing he could do. However, just a few days ago, when Zhuzi's father was squatting under the crooked tree and telling him about their escape, he found out about the existence of such a place. When Zhuzi's father talked about the glory of the Zhang family, he almost thought that Zhang Feng was the young master of that family. From what he said, Zhang Feng's age seemed to be the same as the young master of that family. They also looked very similar. All right. Since that was the case, Zhang Feng and Zhuzi's father talked about the Zhang family in detail. Basically, the Zhang family's 18 generations of ancestors were revealed. He even clearly stated who the young master of the Zhang family was engaged to. In the end, Zhang Feng asked how he knew so much. In the end, he found out that Zhuzi's father was someone who lived near the Zhang family. He worked for the Zhang family all year round. How could he not know the situation of the main family? This was the reason why Zhang Feng could casually mention these places just now. The matter was explained clearly. At this time, Zhang Feng also seemed to be very comfortable. People had to have roots. The faster they rose, the more they had to have roots. This was the origin of the so-called roots in the feudal era. Zhang Feng was someone who would enter the imperial court in the future. Even if he did not enter the imperial court, he was destined to be extraordinary. If he did not have a status, he would not be able to stand tall. This was society. The system of feudal society was like this. If you wanted to climb up, there would always be people who would obstruct you and want you to be smashed to pieces. Now, Zhang Feng was not afraid. Although he did not know how high the price would be, at worst, at the last moment, he would use a big lie to cover up today's lie. However, he knew that if he stood high enough one day, even if the emperor found out that there was a problem with his status, he would not do anything to him. Because in his blood flowed the blood of the Han people. That was enough. What's more, the emperor was someone who could even spoil the daughter-in-law of the Chang people. To him, it was a piece of cake. Identity? In the eyes of the emperor, that was nothing but a fart. If he says you have it, you have it. If he says you don't, you are nothing. Now, whether it was Zhang Feng, Zhang Sun Wuji, or Wei Jing, they were all relieved. Only now did they truly acknowledge Zhang Feng. At the same time, he was shocked. How could a 20-year-old youth have such godly talent? Brother Zhang Feng, do you know what I'm thinking now? Wei Jing looked at Zhang Feng and patted him on the shoulder. I used to think that a man would definitely protect his country or enter the imperial court as an official. That would be the most important thing in life. But today, I don't see these two things in you. Don't tell me you don't want to? Yes. Zhang Feng nodded honestly. Who doesn't want to stain the battlefield with blood and be buried in horse hide? That kind of hot-bloodedness makes one's blood boil just thinking about it. Who doesn't want to be in that kind of situation? Zhang Feng shook his head. Zhang Sun Wuji sucked a piece of small intestine in one gulp and patted his oily hands, praising, "What a great saying, the bright mirror grieves for white hair." Brother Zhang Feng, then, you want to? Zhang Sun Wuji never forgot his original intention. He wanted to rope in Zhang Feng. Now that he saw the opportunity, he hurriedly tried to rope him in. No. Zhang Feng shook his head. Now is not the time. Besides, who said that serving the imperial court requires one to be buried in horse hide and have white hair in the court? Wei Zheng was shocked. He had read the books of sages all his life. The principles in the books were basically the same as what Zhang Sun said, but why did Zhang Feng have a different meaning? Wei Zheng hurriedly got up and bowed with the etiquette of a Confucian, saying, "Please enlighten me, Brother Zhang Feng." Now, the imperial court of the Tang dynasty was spreading the word in order to recruit virtuous officials, but the effect was very little. But today, Zhang Feng's words were different. Could it be that he was talking about another academic field? Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but be in awe. I can't say it explicitly. Zhang Feng smiled. Actually, this is the case. I think there are many ways to serve the imperial court. If it's within your ability, you can help the world. Isn't this a kind of reimbursement? As long as we can ensure that the people are clothed and fed within our ability, even if the power of one person is small, if there are thousands of people in the world like what I said, think about it, what will happen? He will pass down this virtue like a wildfire. This, Wei Zheng was shocked. Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. What kind of logic was that? However, it did seem to make a lot of sense. At this time, after the two of them found out about this, they finally achieved their goal. Zhang Sun Wuji got up and said with a sad face, "Brother Zhang Feng, are we brothers? If what you said is right, then now, I have a problem and need your help. Will you help me?" "Of course. Who the hell said we're not brothers? Get a knife, Lao Tzu, and chop him to death." Zhang Sun Wuji was overjoyed when he heard that, but his face changed like a Sichuan opera. As soon as he lowered his head, his face changed into a crying face. Brother Zhang Feng help. Chapter 188. What's going on? Are you F***king acting? Why don't you go to the Oscars? Lao Tzu guarantees that you'll get the Best Actor award. Really? I swear. Zhang Feng gave Zhang Sun Wuji the middle finger in his heart. However, The corners of his mouth twitched as he asked, "Old son, do you have to do this? We're brothers. Just tell me what it is. As long as it's not life-threatening, Zhang Feng will definitely help you." "Really? I'll keep my word." "Good. I've been waiting for you to say that." Now, the emperor is furious. He heard that there are many Turkic spies operating in Chang'an city. Lord Zhangsun was scolded badly. In the end, he came to me and scolded me. He wants us to cooperate with them to find out who's hiding in Chang'an city. If we can't, stop. Zhang Feng didn't feel good at all. He immediately got up and gave a fist salute. "Please enjoy. I'll take my leave now." As he spoke, he was about to slip away. This is King Deadly. Just a moment ago, he was still warning his neighbors not to provoke these people and to run as far away as they could. He was even considering if he should find another place to hide. Now look at the unlucky Zhang Sun Wuji. The emperor scolded you because he thinks highly of you. Just let him scold you. You shouldn't King hurt others. Now you've King hurt others. Lao Li too. If you have nothing to do, what can't you do? Even if you wash a piece of mud in the river for fun, Lao Tzu will still praise you. Now look at what you've done. You've flattered the wrong horse. You've hit the horse's balls. If you want to die, why are you dragging me into it? Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji were completely dumbfounded when they saw Zhang Feng making such a big commotion. However, when Zhang Feng opened the door and was about to go out, the two of them sped up and grabbed the back of Zhang Feng's collar to bring him back. "I say, little brother, why are you running?" I need to pee." "Come on. I knew you were a coward." Zhang Sun Wuji curled his lips and said, "This isn't difficult at all. I heard from Lao Li that the group of kids at the entrance of your shop are all your informants. You're really a genius to have someone like that in front of you. That's why we're here to ask you for advice. As for other matters, the officials will naturally take care of it. If you're afraid, I'll have someone send you a few well-dressed boys. By the way, my son has practiced a few moves before. Old Wei's silly son has also learned martial arts for a few years. Old Chen's son is also there. Is that enough to ensure your safety?" "You bunch of cheaters. You're thinking of ways to stuff your son here with me." Zhang Feng said snappily, "I'll take care of my own safety. I'll be honest with you, I'm very safe here." The most dangerous place was the safest place. Zhang Feng now felt that this sentence was really King wise. He was alone, a small target, and not a threat. This would be of great help to his safety. Moreover, it wasn't as if he wasn't prepared these few days. He had watched the Dungeon Battle movie no less than a dozen times. He still understood this principle. "Fine. Since you don't want protection, then tell me, do you know about this matter?" Seeing that Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji didn't understand what he meant by the safest place, Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and said, "I know about this matter, and when Crown Prince Jinla came to my place, I found out that they seem to be the ones behind this rice robbery. Moreover, anyone with a brain would understand that if no one instigated this matter, who the hell would dare to expose the matter in the palace?" "You mean, there's also someone in the palace?" Wei Zheng's eyes narrowed slightly. Without waiting for him to finish, Zhang Feng hurriedly motioned for him to stop. Zhang Feng nodded. "So, I think it's best for you to let Zhang Sun Wuji investigate this matter from the palace. That way, it'll be much easier to handle. And to put it bluntly, I reckon that the lord in the palace has long known about this matter and has already started to make arrangements. Since he can let you cooperate with Zhang Sun Wuji to investigate the merchants in Chang'an city, then you know the ins and outs of this matter?" Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly lowered their voices and asked. "I don't know." "I thought you knew. After all this time, you don't know anything." Zhang Sun Wuji rolled his eyes. CK. Zhang Feng exploded. He was most afraid of being looked down upon. How could he tolerate this? He couldn't tolerate being looked down upon. He hurriedly said, "Let me tell you. Don't even think about this matter. If you investigate the merchants in Chang'an city now, I guarantee that you won't find anything. Don't ask me why I know. If you ask, I just don't know." Let me remind you, if you want to investigate this matter, you have to go outside. Go outside and investigate. You'll be able to find the source of this matter once you investigate that place. Outside? You mean they've shipped it out? Chapter 189. Ahem. Zhang Feng drank a bowl of wine mysteriously. He leaned back on the recliner and snorted a few times. There are some things that need more of this. If you don't use it, you'll lose it sooner or later. Zhang Feng pointed to his head. These inexplicable words made Zhang Sun Wuji and Wei Jing confused. But seeing that Zhang Feng stopped talking about this matter, they could only jest with Zhang Feng for a while. After drinking, the two of them left contentedly. But it was obvious that they left with a lot on their minds. The Imperial Palace. On the Vermilion Bird Bridge of the Imperial City. Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji squatted on the bridge in a daze. They wanted to go to the Emperor, but they didn't dare to. They could only sit here and think. Hey, old man, what do you think Brother Zhang Feng meant by his last words? He said you're brainless. Get out. Zhang Sun Wuji frowned and said, I have a feeling that Brother Zhang Feng always wanted to say something but stopped. Did you notice? Wei Jing nodded. That's really a rare thing. Didn't you talk about it in detail before? What's going on this time? Is he really afraid of death? Afraid of death? Zhang Sun Wuji smiled. If this guy was afraid of death, he wouldn't have said those words in front of the Emperor. Think about it, if these words were said to others, who would still be alive? That's true. The two of them fell into silence again. However, at this moment, from afar, a small yellow door ran over, gasping for breath. Prime Minister Wei. Lord Zhang. Your Majesty. Your Majesty. The two of them were shocked. They took a closer look and found that this person turned out to be Xiao Gizi by the Emperor's side. They hurriedly got up and asked, What's wrong with the Emperor? Your Majesty. Your Majesty asked you to go see him. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the Imperial Garden. Li Shimin sat on the soft couch and flipped through the memorials. As for Zhang Sun Wuji and Wei Jing, they were like air, standing outside the pavilion with their bodies bowed under the sun, standing there. Sweat and the effects of alcohol almost made the two of them faint. However, the Emperor acted as if he didn't see the two of them and continued to read the memorials. Even Xiao Gizi, who was beside him, wanted to speak twice, but after thinking about it, he still closed his mouth. After an unknown amount of time, just as the two were on the verge of collapsing, Li Shimin lightly coughed and dismissed the crowd, indicating for the two to enter the pavilion in the middle of the lake. She handed a pot of herbal tea to the two of them and said with a playful expression, I told you to do something, and you just sat on the Vermilion Bird Bridge to embarrass me? No, Your Majesty, you've wronged this old subject. Li Shimin put down the memorials, looked at Zhang Sun Wuji and asked, Then I'd like to hear how I've wronged you. This old subject and Prime Minister Wei went to Zhang Feng's little tavern today. I remember now. I still remember that the two of you ran wildly through the streets of Chang'an city in a fit of pique. Is that true? The two of them couldn't help but lower their heads at this question. Li Shimin said again, I remember that the chamberlains of Jin Wu secretly caught at least 30 people who were following you. I'll say it one last time. Brother Zhang Feng is my brother. His safety cannot be compromised. If you're angry, I don't care. However, if you implicate Brother Zhang Feng, you know the consequences. Hearing this, the two of them hurriedly knelt on the ground. This subject knows his mistake. Forget it, get up. Sit. Tell me, what did Brother Zhang Feng say? The two of them heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this, but they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. More than 30 people who were following them? Weren't the Turks too arrogant? If they secretly shot an arrow at them, then the two of them couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. However, this was clearly not the time to think about this. Wei Zheng collected his emotions and said, Today, this subject and I have confirmed Brother Zhang Feng's identity. He's from Nyangzi Pass. Your Majesty should have known that place at the time. Nyangzi Pass? Could he be a descendant of the Zhang clan? Didn't I hear that his family was destroyed in a flood and landslide, and no one survived? Zhang Sun Wuji thought for a while and said, "Your Majesty, when this subject heard about this, I specially sent someone to Nyangzi Pass to inquire about the young master of the Zhang clan. His whereabouts were unknown, and even his body was not found. He must have come ashore in the flood and then came to Chang'an and to seek refuge. And his tavern now is considered the property of the Zhang clan in Chang'an. Oh!" With Zhang Sun Wuji's explanation, Zhang Feng's identity was finally revealed. If Zhang Feng was here, he would really be excited to go to Nyangzi Pass and set off a cart of firecrackers for the missing young master of the Zhang clan. Then what does this matter have to do with the task I asked you to do? Yes. At that time, this subject also felt that the place where brother Zhang Feng was at was too dangerous, so I wanted to ask my son to protect him. But he said where was the safest place? Hearing this, Li Shimin's face suddenly changed. He asked, "Did brother Zhang Feng really say that?" "It's absolutely true." Li Shimin's eyes suddenly burst out a trace of killing intent. "Oh no. Idiot, brother Zhang Feng is in danger." Chapter 190. What? This? Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji suddenly had goosebumps. How could there be danger? However, the next moment, Wei Zheng immediately felt the world spinning around him. He cried sadly, "I finally know why brother Zhang Feng always spoke so strangely today. Why he was so eager to drive us away. It turns out that he didn't want us to be in danger. God, I know I was wrong." Wei Zheng wailed. Zhang Sun Wuji was not any better. Li Shimin was anxious. He grabbed Zhang Sun Wuji's collar and asked, "Tell me, what is going on?" "Your Majesty, this is what happened. We originally wanted to ask brother Zhang Feng to help us find information about the spy in Chang'an. However, brother Zhang Feng avoided the topic. Finally, after I asked, he said that the cause of this matter was your Majesty's stockpiling of grain." "What?" Li Shimin was shocked. "And then?" "He said that your Majesty's stockpiling of grain must be confidential. However, such a thing would be leaked by someone. This person either wanted his whole family to die or was a spy." "A spy? There is a spy in my palace?" Li Shimin's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. He asked again, "Tell me everything that brother Zhang Feng said without missing a single word." Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji said, "This matter, after we figured out brother Zhang Feng's identity, we told him about what happened in Chang'an. Before we finished, brother Zhang Feng wanted to run away. In the end, we caught him and held him in a chair. Then he told us what happened. The first thing he said was that there was a spy in the palace. Then he said that he was afraid of death and told us not to investigate further. People would die, many people would die. But when I told him that Zhang Sun Wuji wanted us to investigate, he said that if we wanted to investigate, we would have to go outside the city. We wouldn't be able to find anything inside the city. Also, he pointed to his head and said, 'Use it more often, or it will be gone easily.' I didn't know what was going on back then, but now, the two of them couldn't continue. Was there even a need to ask? There's no need." Li Shimin and the others were not fools. It was clear now. Can't Chang'an investigate? Why couldn't they investigate? There must be someone from the government covering for them. Moreover, the merchants also seemed to have hooks and sickles. Under such circumstances, how could they investigate? Who could find out anything? If they were to investigate now, all the clues would be lost. "Prime Minister Wei, tell me, what did brother Zhang Feng mean by going outside the city to investigate?" Li Shimin thought for a while and added, "Could it be that he wants us to investigate from both sides? I think that might be the case. There's a saying in the military that when we surround them, we can make all the demons and monsters unable to hide. I think that brother Zhang Feng must have read this sentence in a military book. That's why he said it at this time, under such dangerous circumstances. Then, do you feel that there might be a big shot hiding around brother Zhang Feng?" This, Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji were shocked. They had thought of this before, but they didn't dare to think about it. However, the more they didn't want to think about it, the faster they thought about it. Everything became clear at this moment. If it wasn't for the danger around them, why were those children gone today? Why did brother Zhang Feng leave in such a hurry? He didn't hesitate to give away his wealth? After all, Brother Zhang Feng was very stingy. At this time, Zhang Feng's words that this was the safest place and the strange look in his eyes made the two experienced officials break out in a cold sweat. Damn it. Brother Zhang Feng is such a loyal friend. But I'm ashamed to face Brother Zhang Feng. Li Shimin said bitterly as he smashed his fist on the stone pillar. If it weren't for the fact that so many things are involved, I would really like to pick up my long sword and wipe out Chang'an city one strike at a time. Your Majesty, you can't do that. Your Majesty, please calm down. Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji both knelt down. Li Shimin waved his hand. I'm fine. Now tell me, is the chess piece in the palace in the Honglu Temple or someone hiding in the palace? This? Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji looked at each other, bowed and said, We are stupid. We don't know. Alas. Forget it. Since Brother Zhang Feng said that we should start the investigation outside the city, then there are gate handles around Chang'an city. Let's start with these city guards. Your Majesty, the city guards are basically old Chang's subordinates. I think here should be. Zhangsun Wuji wanted to say something but stopped. Li Shimin said impatiently, If you have something to say, just say it. I have an immature idea. Then don't say it. Zhangsun Wuji almost choked. He said quickly, I think the rivers that run through the palace are the biggest suspects. I think we can start the investigation from there. Li Shimin's eyes lit up. Then which river do you think is the most likely? The Yong and Canal. The Yong and Canal goes straight down and then enters the Ba River. It can enter Luozhou in the south and Qinling in the west. The waterways are complicated. We can't trace it. The Yong and Canal. Chapter 191. The conversation in the imperial palace soon ended. But after the conversation, Zhangsun Wuji no longer cared about anything in Chang'an city. He even stopped working on the cooperative and focused on the construction of the cooperative in Luozhou. Wei Zheng finally returned home after the conversation. It was as if nothing had happened just now. This caused the triangular-eyed man's eyes to flicker slightly. Then he disappeared from the palace. After a few leaps, the man's huge palm clung onto a wall of the Chamberlain of Dependencies like a bat. The man's eyes were like a poisonous snake, but his arms were like an ape. After the group of guards from the Chamberlain of Dependencies had left, he quietly entered a room in the Chamberlain of Dependencies. As soon as he entered, a man in a purple robe glanced at him and asked, Is there any news from the imperial palace? No, it seems that His Majesty didn't say anything. Well, the other two men, a strong man named Sok, grinned. Want to investigate us? Let's see how the Tang Emperor will find out. The eyes of the other Tuyuhun man with a curly beard flashed. Sok, don't say that. I think our people should be more restrained for the time being. I think His Majesty the Tang Emperors should have noticed something. Go Kopi, if you want to be a coward, we Tubo people won't do it. Enough. The long-armed man who just came in glanced at the three men with a sinister look and said, Little Khan hasn't said anything. What are you talking about? That's enough, Barter. They are just making plans. It's not surprising. The purple-robed young man waved his hand indifferently. Pass down the message. Keep a low profile. When Lord Jin La's second batch of goods arrives, it will be the time for us to take action. The premise is that Jiannan Circuit doesn't take action. If Jiannan Circuit does take action, we still have to continue to hide in Chang'an city. So, keep your tails between your legs for this matter. Remember, stockpiling food is the most important thing. I think you don't have much food left, do you? The purple-robed man looked at the two men mockingly. We know. What else could the two men say? He could only agree. However, just as the three of them were about to leave the room, the purple-robed young man asked playfully, Today, I heard that more than 30 people went to track down Zhangsun Wuji and Wei Zheng. Are they your people? Hearing this, the three of them stopped in their tracks. However, they looked at each other as if no one knew what was going on. Seeing this, a sinister look flashed across the purple-robed young man's face. Pass down the message. Whoever dares to do such a foolish thing again will have their entire family wiped out. Yes. everyone was afraid of him. Not because Lao Tzu was Sheli Khan. Instead, it was because this person's style had always been very sinister. It was unknown who he had learned this from. Now, when he looked at the three of them, he actually revealed a sinister expression. It was clear that he was truly angry. The three of them walked out of the room. However, they ran into the steward of the Chamberlain of Dependencies who was going up the stairs. The three of them looked at each other, and their faces hurriedly revealed a touch of indifference and respect. "Isn't this Lord Zhou? What are you doing?" Zhou Weiqing, who was wearing a green official's robe, wiped the sweat off his forehead and cupped his fist disinterestedly. "It's just a routine official business." Then, he walked around the three of them and entered the Turkic young Khan's room. The three of them looked at each other and stopped where they were. At this distance, it was extremely easy for the three of them to hear what was going on inside. After Zhou Weiqing entered the purple-robed young man's room, the purple-robed young man pretended that he had just noticed Zhou Weiqing and elegantly bowed to him like an aristocrat. "I didn't know that Lord Zhou was here. Pardon me for not going out to meet you." "You're too serious, young Khan. I'm here on official business. Today, someone in Chang'an city discovered that someone was following Lord Zhang's son and Lord Wei Zheng. Therefore, the emperor ordered me to come down and inform you that Chang'an has been very chaotic recently. If there's nothing important, young Khan should not leave the palace. It's dangerous." "Oh?" The purple-robed young man pretended to be speechless. "This is Chang'an city. How could there be such a suicidal person here who dares to follow two Grand Dukes?" The Ministry of Justice is currently interrogating the person who was caught. Therefore, the Emperor ordered the Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia to strengthen the security of the Chamberlain of Dependencies to ensure your safety. Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty." After that, Zhou Weiqing cupped his fists and said, "I'm done here. I'll take my leave now." "Thank you, Your Majesty. Take care, Your Majesty." After seeing Zhou Weiqing off, the purple-robed young man's face was so dark that it was about to drip water. "If this Khan finds out who is messing around, this Khan will grind the bones of 18 generations of your ancestors into powder. You're just an animal who can't do anything right." He was furious. This was a critical moment. Zhang's son Wuji and Wei Zheng are the Grand Dukes of the Tang dynasty, right? If you have nothing better to do, why the hell did you go to Chang'an city? King bastard. The purple-robed young man clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. Then, he opened the door with a calm expression on his face. Under his gaze, groups of heavily armored soldiers surrounded the Chamberlain of Dependencies. How are those the Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia? They're the garrison of the Tang dynasty stationed in Chang'an. Chapter 192. Zhang Feng was depressed. He was really depressed. Ever since he found out that there was a Turkic spy living next door, he had been panicking. He had cursed the system hundreds of times in his heart. Then, he kept his head down and ran in the tunnel, digging out the tunnel with shovel after shovel to make it as comfortable and spacious as possible. There must be a vent in the tunnel. He thought for a long time and finally decided on the chimney. On one side of the chimney, there was a fire outlet. In this fire outlet, he put a bamboo pole and opened the bamboo pole. This was a simple vent. Then he installed bamboo tubes in all the places in the room where the vent could be placed. On one hand, it was for safety, but more importantly, it was for light. He had watched many ancient movies and TV series. Basically, all the houses in this era were made of wood, so it was easy to catch fire. They also took advantage of this. When there was no other choice, everyone's favorite thing to do was to set the house on fire and destroy the evidence. At that time, if Old Wei could guess what he meant from his words, then he really had to make sure he was safe. This tunnel was his safety barrier. The tunnel was not big, only enough to fit a bed, a toilet, and some simple toiletries. Zhang Feng even stored a lot of dried meat here, just in case he could come in at any time. He did not know how long he would have to hide. So, he had arranged everything here properly. However, even so, he was still very depressed. He thought that Old Wei was the smartest person besides Lao Li. He did not expect him to be so blind. She just didn't know if he had understood the last sentence clearly. If he did not, then it would be fine. But if he did, then it would be best. He was not afraid of their intelligence, but he was afraid of the emperor in the palace. If he got angry and sent a large army to attack, then it would be terrible. He did not want the small tavern to suffer. He did not know if this small G tavern was directly related to the binding of the system, so he had to stay here until the activation of the system. Otherwise, he was afraid. The Tang dynasty was too dangerous. If he entered the palace one day and did not have the system with him, he was afraid that he would not be able to defeat this guy. In history, if this man was a good man, he would rather chop off his own head if he dared to mark the streets of Chang'an, and with the words, 9982 Li West Straight Road, to show his sovereign territory. The people around this master were all King shrewd. There was no need to talk about Wei Zheng. To be able to be called a human mirror, it was easy to imagine how powerful he was. However, he wasn't afraid of Wei Zheng. He was confident that he could toy with Wei Zheng. But this Chang person, Zhang Sun Wuji, and the emperor made him feel uneasy. Zhang Feng shook his head. He chewed on a piece of straw that he pulled off from the bed to stop himself from thinking about those annoying things. Now that it was quiet, he had the urge to go next door and take a look. After shaking his head hard, Zhang Feng got up and walked out of the small tavern. He squatted at the entrance of the small tavern and looked at the bustling street on the other side. Compared to the empty street he was on, Zhang Feng suddenly felt excited. That's right. If he could build a house on the second floor of Lao Tzu's small tavern, he would not have to be afraid anymore. Even if he was surrounded by soldiers, he just needed to climb down the rope ladder and say Zhang Sun Wuji's name and Lao Tzu would be fine. At this thought, Zhang Feng hurriedly found the dog and asked him to buy a wooden plank for him. He wanted to tidy up a room on the second floor of the tavern. While Zhang Feng was busy building because he had found a sense of security, he encountered an extremely troublesome matter in Luozhou City. At this moment, in Luozhou City, in a single night, the hair on the head of the Luozhou provincial governor had disappeared without a trace under the demonic claws of the shrew. At this moment, the Luozhou provincial governor was squatting in front of the residence of Duke Liu, Ho Junji, waiting for an audience. A moment later, a servant opened the door and lazily said, "Come in." The Luozhou provincial governor hurriedly got up and followed the servant into the residence. The moment he entered, Ho Junji put down the book in his hand and laughed. "Lord Wei, what happened to your hair?" Hearing these words, the Luozhou provincial governor Wei Yujie wanted to cry. "Lord Duke, you have to save me." "What's wrong?" Ho Junji deliberately frowned. He pretended to be displeased and said, "As an official of the imperial court, how can you cry like this?" "Lord Duke, it's not that this lowly official is crying, it's because this subject really couldn't do it. Moreover, this subject has distributed all the money in the Luozhou treasury. 3 days have passed. This official brought people to check the accounts, but those people lied and said that they didn't know about this matter." Only now did Ho Junji realize that this matter had truly gotten out of hand. Moreover, the emperor had secretly ordered him to cooperate with the Luozhou provincial governor and unfold this matter in Luozhou. But now, he realized that this matter had gone a little too far. "How much money did you release?" "This subject has released it. 5,723,892 taels. This money was basically all borrowed by the rich families and merchants of Luozhou. The common people only borrowed around 300 taels. Then, why can't you take it back?" Ho Junji stood up, his expression dark. "Don't they know that this is His Majesty's money? They're rebelling." Chapter 193. More than 5 million taels of silver. This was a huge sum. If it was just a small sum, he really wouldn't have cared. Moreover, the emperor had already prepared himself to suffer some losses for this matter. But if this 5 million taels were all wasted, the emperor would really kill them. With this thought in mind, Ho Junji waved his hand and said, "Tell me in detail. What is the reason for this matter?" 3 days ago, this official was ordered to meet up with those wealthy merchants and families in Luozhou and explain the matter clearly. But when this official went the next day, this official only found that the money was gone. The account book recorded that the money the commoners had lent out while this official was here, but the money after that had disappeared without a trace. Bastard. Absolute bastard. You're not even going to arrest this? Are you a bastard? No. Wei Yujia hurriedly said, "Look at this account book." As he spoke, Wei Yujia took out another account book from his embroidered robe and handed it over to Ho Junji. Ho Junji flipped open the account book and was even more dumbfounded. Lozhou's Watermoon Music House borrowed 1 million taels. Zhengguan began repayment 3 years ago, in installments, plus interest, 13,300 taels per month, spread over 10 years. On the 8th day of the 6th month of the 2nd year of Zhengguan, Zhang Debao personally lent it. Luozhou Bank borrowed 2 million taels. Bastard. What is this? 10 years? Who gave them the courage to borrow money like this? Ho Junji exploded in anger. Wei Yujia said, "Duke, you might not know, but these businesses are actually their own businesses. To put it bluntly, they just want to use this opportunity to gather all the money in their hands." Do you have any good ideas? Ho Junji was also anxious. The emperor had said that he wanted to lend the money to the commoners, but they were still considered commoners, right? Didn't it matter who they lent it to? But even if they took the money, the repayment account book was giving Ho Junji a headache. How could the matter of the Great Tang wait a year? Normally, they would have waited a year. In any case, the Tang dynasty didn't lack that bit of money. But now they couldn't wait. Moreover, the emperor wanted to see results immediately. Now that this problem had occurred, wouldn't that mean? But now, could the Tang dynasty wait that long? Moreover, he was clearly trying to take advantage of the situation, and not even Ho Junji could say anything about it. "Duke, regarding this matter, what do you think? What should this official do?" This lowly official only has a month's time. If this continues, not only will I not be able to get back the 5 million taels of silver, the commoners won't be able to get any benefits at all. I beg the Duke to think of a way. As Wei Yujia spoke, he was about to kneel down. Ho Junji frowned and said, "Governor, there is no need for this. This matter needs to be discussed at length. This is also His Majesty's experiment." Ho Junji thought for a long time. Then he said, "How about this? You take out the taxes in Luozhou first. This time, you must personally supervise this matter and immediately write a letter. You must report everything that happened today in detail." Will this work? Duke, there's less than 1 million taels of tax left in Luozhou. Moreover, unauthorized use of taxes is a crime punishable by the execution of 9 generations of the family. Right now, we can only do this. Old man should also write a letter to report this matter to His Majesty. Be at ease and send this letter as well. As he spoke, Ho Junji wrote down a detailed memorial to the throne and handed it to Wei Yujia. Wei Yujia thanked him profusely and left. Once Wei Yujia was gone, Ho Junji called out, "Steward! Master! Immediately take out all the silver that the manor can take out, and then have Ho Jie personally deliver the silver to every citizen." "Master, the steward was dumbfounded. The Duke residence had less than 10,000 taels of silver in total, and this was clearly a bottomless pit. How could it fill the stomachs of all the people of Luozhou? Go and handle this matter." Yes, Ho Junji did not return the account books to Wei Yujia, because he saw an enormous benefit in them. Since the emperor was in such a hurry to do this, and while the monthly profit of 1 tael of silver was only a few copper coins, if this continued, wouldn't all the money in the world end up in the emperor's pocket? If each person contributed 1 copper coin, how much would the hundreds of thousands of people in Luozhou be worth? And this didn't even include the loans from the merchants. If the hundreds of thousands and tens of millions of taels of silver were added into the equation, then Ho Junji was no fool. Although he could only see a vague shadow, he was a smart man and an ambitious schemer. From the emperor's every move, he could see one thing. The emperor's butcher's knife had been raised high. These idiots still dared to take advantage of this loophole? Ho Junji coldly chuckled, his hands held behind his back as he looked at the words on the table. These words were bold and forceful. The content of the words was the poem that Zhang Feng had written on the wall that day. "Zhang Feng, just who are you? Chapter 194. At the entrance of the Luozhou mansion, a large number of commoners stuck their heads out and scrambled to see when the provincial governor would come out. Yesterday, they heard that the emperor was going to give out silver. How could this be? Everyone was stunned. From the Qin emperor to the Great Sui dynasty, no one had ever seen such a good thing. But, yesterday, some people saw it with their own eyes. Some commoners only needed to sign their names with the official's confirmation and then press a red handprint on the place where their names were. After the official proved their identity, they would get the silver they wanted. Every month, they only needed to pay a few copper coins and pay the interest. What was this? It was a good thing that money fell from the sky. Yesterday, some people received the silver and went home happily. But more people were watching. But in the end, when they heard that millions of silver had entered the pockets of those merchants, they couldn't help it. All the commoners were poor. Even the house they lived in was propped up with wood. They did not have the money to repair it. However, if they could really get the money from the government, not only would they be able to repair the house, they would also have some money left over to buy some furniture. They could even have a few meals to fill their stomachs. There were also some people who were squatting at the entrance of the provincial governor's mansion with their identity certificates, hoping to get some silver to buy a set of things to live on. It's almost the end of the day. The provincial governor's certificate still hasn't come out? Yesterday, he said that he would give out silver at the entrance of the provincial governor's mansion. Why is he still not here at the end of the day? Could it be that the provincial governor is making fun of us? It can't be, right? I saw with my own eyes that Galftover's father received an ingot of silver. That fellow seems to be in high spirits today and is working especially hard. Hiss! He really got it? Everyone was shocked. Just when everyone couldn't wait any longer and started to talk about it, the tightly shut door of the provincial governor's mansion finally opened. Following the opening of the heavy door, a group of armored soldiers wearing shining Mingguang armor and shining Mo sabers with threatening cold air could be seen. They neatly divided into two groups and walked out of the provincial governor's mansion. When the crowd saw the armored soldiers, they were even more shocked. He hurriedly shut his mouth and let go of the gate of the provincial governor's office. Following the appearance of these two groups of armored soldiers, soon after, civil officials and government officials carried thick stacks of account books and hurriedly appeared at the entrance. Then, soldiers carried 10 large tables and surrounded the provincial governor's manor. As for the officials and civil officials, they sat in front of these tables and spread out their brushes and ink. Until now. Only then did the provincial governor appear in front of everyone. Behind him, boxes with seals were being carried out with great difficulty, placed in front of the provincial governor's office, and opened. The dazzling silver ingots made everyone aghast. However, just at that moment, the 2 rows of soldiers also revealed twisted expressions. They pulled out their Modeo blades and coldly swept their gazes over the crowd. Wei Yujie first cupped his fists to the crowd and then said, "Today, the release of the silver ingots officially begins. But I still have a word of advice for everyone. This is the imperial family's silver ingots. The emperor empathizes with the people and gives you the capital to live a better life. If I find out who dares to squander this silver ingots in brothels, taverns, and gambling houses instead of using it for daily life, I will first punish him with 30 strokes of the cane, and then I will wait for the emperor to punish him. Today, I have 3 requests. Those who are addicted to gambling, alcoholics, and debauches, get out of my sight. If you are found by the officials, you all see these soldiers, right?" Wei Yujie pointed at the soldiers wearing Mingguang armor and said, "Once you are found, if you still dare to deceive me, first, ask this Mo saber if he is willing." "Provincial governor, don't worry. We are all the people in this city. We all want to take some money back to live a better life. If anyone is a debauchee, let alone the provincial governor, we will not let him go." "Provincial governor, don't worry. This money, we will spend it wisely. Since it is the emperor's pity, how would we dare to use it carelessly?" Members of the Zhang family, listen to this old man. Now, listen to what the Lord has to say. What kind of money is this? This is the money that the emperor gave us to save our lives. Whoever dares to squander it will be punished according to the family rules. Patriarch, don't worry. Whoever dares to do this will be beaten to death. Beaten to death. Wei Yujie heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the agitated crowd, he waved his hand and said, "All rich families and merchants, stop issuing loans today. Don't ask. If you want to ask those people from yesterday. They all took the money away. If you want to blame someone, blame them." *CK his mother. Lao Tzu is still waiting to borrow some money to buy goods. Damn it, provincial governor, they are rich to begin with. Why are they doing this? Provincial governor, catch them and cut them into pieces. All the people who were waiting to borrow money to start their businesses were angry. At this time, the provincial governor had already spoken. What could they do? All the merchants waved their hands and shouted with red eyes, "Let's go and find those sons of B** cheese to ask for money. That is the money that the emperor gave us. Yes. Let's go." Wei Yujie turned a blind eye to this. Instead, he said to the officials, "Pass down the order. If those people dare to hit people, arrest them. If these people hit people, as long as they don't kill people, pretend that you didn't see anything." Yes. Chapter 195. Liangzhou. This was the main trade route from Chang'an to Longyu Road, which was connected to the western regions. At this moment, Liangzhou was also facing the same problem. The provincial governor of Liangzhou, Wei Ani, was a distant relative of Wei Zheng. Today, he sent 3 secret reports to Wei Zheng. A few days ago, he received a letter from the palace, asking Liangzhou to release all the tax money that was supposed to be sent to Chang'an and lend it to the people according to His Majesty's order. However, everything was fine on the first day, but on the second day, they ran into trouble. This was the center of commerce. Basically, half of the residents in Liangzhou city were merchants. On the first day, Wei Ani took out 7 million taels of silver and distributed less than 30 to 40,000 taels of silver to the small merchants in the city. Basically, the people were watching. However, on the second day, after Wei Ani personally loaned 1,000 taels of silver for his brother-in-law's dye house, the 7 million taels of silver were all spent by the small merchants in an instant. Wei Ani was overjoyed. He had finally solved the matter that His Majesty had asked him to do perfectly. However, on the third day, he was dumbfounded. He had wanted to wake up early in the morning to play with his favorite golden thrush bird in the cage, but he had lost the desire to do so. The clamor outside the mansion scared the birds to the point that they were shivering. How could he not be angry when his beloved bird was frightened? He rolled up his sleeves angrily and was about to go out to see what the guard was doing. Why didn't he care about the commotion outside? However, he was completely dumbfounded as soon as he stepped out of the backyard. There were more than a dozen servants and maids in the courtyard, but now they were all hiding in the room and did not dare to come out. From time to time, there were piles of dried or fresh cow dung flying in from outside the courtyard. How could this be? Wei Ani was furious. "Butler? Where did you go?" "Oh, master, come and hide." Behind a bamboo bush, the butler shakily poked his head out and then hid again. Wei Ani was dumbfounded. He carefully avoided the cow dung outside the courtyard and hid in the bamboo bush. He asked, "What's going on outside?" "Old master, almost all the people around Liangzhou are outside." "What?" Wei Ani was shocked. "Then, why didn't anyone inform me?" Madam doesn't want to. She's afraid that with master's temper, going out and hitting people will cause a lawsuit." Wei Ani was furious. He raised his hand and was about to hit him, but in the next moment, he withdrew his hand in embarrassment under a cold gaze. "Madam, why are you outside?" Everyone in Liangzhou knew that Wei Ani was henpecked. Moreover, Wei Ani had a bad temper. This was something that everyone in Liangzhou knew. At this moment, a graceful figure was glaring at him from the storeroom in the front yard. "This is what you're doing? This concubine really doesn't know if that cow dung is blind or what. Why can't it smash you to death?" Wei Ani was dumbfounded. They winked at the old butler and even kicked him, but the old butler remained silent. The old man was furious. Wei Ani felt aggrieved. He was the governor of Liangzhou, and he was appointed at the age of 40. This was really a stroke of good luck. But why did he have to deal with such a shrew? Although Wei Ani was sad and indignant, he did not dare to lose his temper. He could only ask shamelessly, "Madam, what's going on outside? Why are you so angry?" "Angry? How would I dare to be angry? I'm the provincial minister, Wei Zheng, Lord Wei's cousin. How would I dare to be angry?" The madam still ignored him. She said to herself, "Back then, how did you swear in his court that you would be a good official? If your cousin knew that you had caused Liangzhou to become like this and caused tens of thousands of people to block the gate, I wonder if Lord Wei would jump up from the court and skin you alive." The more she said, the more Wei Ani broke out in a cold sweat. His whole body was trembling. Wei Ani had no choice but to surrender. "Madam, just tell me what's going on outside. The old man feels uneasy." "Oh, you feel uneasy? Weren't you very high-spirited when you lent your brother-in-law the money yesterday? Have you ever thought about what the money was for? This is official money, tax money. The emperor personally ordered you to do this. What about you? 7 million. You gave all of it to those merchants?" Finally, Wei Ani thought about the emperor's secret plan in detail in his head. He could not help but feel dizzy and fell down. If it were not for the steward's quick eyes and hands, he would have fallen head first on the bamboo fork and died. At this moment he finally knew what was going on outside. He was so scared that he did not even dare to faint. He rolled and crawled to the door. "It's over, it's over. I'm King over." Wei Ani could not care about anything else. He pulled the bolt of the door open and was instantly drowned by the noise. At the door, all the guards and prisoners were waiting, but no one dared to make a move. They could only guard the door. At this moment, when they saw Wei Ani come out, they finally breathed a sigh of relief and opened the door. Wei Ani roared, "Stop. Lazu, stop. The old man will think of a way to get the money. Don't worry. Line up and make a list. There's still money." Chapter 196. It seems that Lao Li and the rest have messed up the cooperative. Zhang Feng was lying on a recliner by the door as he listened to Guzi, whose face was covered in snot, spittle flying everywhere. Zhang Feng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. "Brother Zhang Feng, let me tell you. Early this morning, I saw signs hanging at the entrance of a few banks opened by the officials. I asked Lao Xiu to take a look, and he said that it was a closed day. At the entrance of the shops, the people looked as if they were possessed. Their eyes were bloodshot. And I heard from the guards at the entrance that there were thousands of people outside the city gates last night. They heard that Chang'an was distributing money, so they came overnight. But I don't know why, but the officials didn't care about it. They acted as if they didn't see it. I heard that the banks in Ping and Lane gave out about a few million taels of silver yesterday. TSK, I don't know how many steamed buns can be bought with a few million taels of silver. I heard that one steamed bun costs 5 copper coins. In the world of children, they were not interested in anything except for eating, which was considered to be very clear on the subject. But at this moment, Guzi was also dumbfounded. To him, a few million taels of silver was money that he had never seen before. How much money did it cost him to force a bank to close down? But these words had a different meaning in Zhang Feng's ears. "Guzi, go and find Lao Xiu. Tell him that I want to drink with him." Zhang Feng waved his hand. Guzi heard this, wiped his nose with his tanned arms, and then hurried away. He didn't even wear grass shoes. He waved his hand and let the little boy beside him enter the house. Zhang Feng then slowly went to the kitchen and brought a big pot of steamed buns and a big basket of steamed buns. Under the burning gaze of Zhu Zi and the others, Zhang Feng put the pot of steamed buns and the basket of steamed buns on the table. "Don't fight. The older ones, let the younger ones come one by one. That little girl, why are you hiding behind? Here, take this lamb leg." Xiaoya, who was hiding in the corner and didn't dare to step forward, suddenly had a greasy and steaming bone stick in her hand. Xiaoya smiled sweetly. She took 2 steamed buns from the basket and ran away in a hurry. Zhang Feng shook his head slightly. He didn't care about it. But inadvertently, he saw the old elementary scholar stroking his beard and smiling at the door. Behind him, he stared at Zhu Zhu, who was holding a large piece of meat and eating it with relish. Zhu Zhu's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "Come on, dog, there's a big pot on the stove. Bring it up and let's eat together." "All right." Hearing this, Gozi ran away with a smile on his face. "Ha, Brother Zhangfeng, you're really... This old man thinks that he's well-read, but this old man admires your actions. If there were more people like you in the world, then our Tang dynasty would not be afraid of being strong and prosperous. Where is the chaos of war in this world? That day will come." Zhang Feng smiled. Come. Old elementary scholar, please sit. It's too boring to be alone, so I came to drink with you to relieve my boredom. Damn Zhu Zhu's father, I can't drink with him. That guy was born to be a slave. And oldie, he always wants to find a wife for me. So, you're still the best. Zhang Feng sighed. He took a jar of wine from the counter and 2 wine cups and sat opposite the old elementary scholar. The old elementary scholar looked at Gozi, who was holding a big pot of meat and eating it with his head lowered. He chided with a smile, "Eat slowly. No one is going to fight with you. Aren't you afraid of choking to death?" "Ha, no way. My mother said that I'm easy to feed." Gozi wiped his mouth. He grinned. The old elementary scholar smiled. She took the wine cup that Zhang Feng handed to her and took a sip of it. "Your wine is still the best. This wine is like you. Although it's clear, it's extremely mellow. Why don't a young man like you want to enter the imperial court and become an official? Instead of, hey, old elementary scholar, you're here too." Zhang Feng was speechless. The matter of becoming an official is not urgent. It's not something that can be rushed. It depends on fate. The old elementary scholar was excited. "With your abilities..." Yi Zichen was stunned. "Me? I just want to drink today and enjoy today. If I can settle down in tens of thousands of rooms, then I will definitely bless the poor people of the world. That's the life of an immortal." Hearing this, the wine cup in the old elementary scholar's hand fell on the table with a bang. He asked with a trembling voice, "Was that a poem you recited just now? This was done by you?" This is a poem written by a senior. I was fortunate enough to hear it. But that senior is no longer in this world." So, the old elementary scholar's eyes dimmed slightly. What a pity. To be able to recite such a good poem, he must be a great scholar. "Do you know the name of that person?" Zhang Feng shook his head. He could not say that the person who wrote this poem had not been born yet, could he? Wouldn't that be sending the old elementary scholar away? Zhang Feng shook his head and said, "Old elementary scholar, let me ask you. Do you know what happened on the street?" The old elementary scholar's wrinkled face was filled with seriousness. "This matter has been spread all over the neighborhood. I also went to take a look." Zhang Feng heard this and asked, "What do you think of this matter?" "What do you think?" The old elementary scholar shook his head slightly. "A failure, a complete failure.